Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know, I'm your humble host, the the Revolution, and Flea Diddy, P. Diddy. He want to be free. He might be. But he looks to be caught up in a big-time blackmail operation that we're finna dig into. Before we dig into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button, like, share, subscribe. Let everybody know Cool Figure is live. Flea Diddy. He want to take everybody down with him, but let's learn some details of his blackmail operation.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I've got Nick Bryant with me,
Salute.
as announced on the previous show. And Nick has been a friend of the channel for years. You know, he's the guy who broke Epstein's black book, first published it. He's also done extensive research on the Franklin scandal. He's been covering the Diddy case recently, and we are greatly honored to have him on. We salute his work. His link tree, if you're watching this on the YouTube version, his link tree is at the top of the description box. And please go and subscribe and watch his other videos.
Salute, fam.
All right, Nick. So thank you for coming on. And for people who are not familiar with your work, could you just say what qualifies you to talk about these subjects?
I watch a lot of television, and that has sufficiently edified me. No, I'm just joking. I started researching child trafficking about 22 years ago, before it was kind of in vogue. And I wrote a book called The Franklin Scandal, which is about an interstate child trafficking network. I spent 7 years on that. And as fortune would have it, I started investigating the Epstein case a couple of years after that book was published. And I was able to acquire Epstein's black book in 2012. And no one in the media would touch it. No one. And finally, Gawker published it in 2015. And that was kind of a big bang. It really showed the extensiveness of Epstein's connections. And with Diddy, I smelled kind of the same thing going on. And plus, there's mutual people involved in the cover-up of Epstein and Diddy. It's kind of amazing how these cover-up guys are just recycled.
It is amazing how these cover-up guys are just recycled. So, you know, when we had the attorney Busby on the other night, I opened it by saying that I hope you've got a lot of security, because in the Franklin scandal, the investigator went down in a plane crash. Isn't that what happened?
That was an investigator for a Senate subcommittee, a Nebraska Senate subcommittee that was looking into the Franklin scandal. And he had obtained a critical mass of evidence, pictures of pedophilic orgies. And the Franklin network was almost a carbon copy of the Epstein network. And what we're seeing with P. Diddy, the Franklin network was heavily involved in trafficking children. It was heavily involved in blackmail. There was definitely intelligence connections to the Franklin network, definitely intelligence connections to the Epstein network. And what we're seeing with Diddy is we're seeing him commit these heinous crimes over decades. And the only way that he could continue to do that was if there was some kind of government protection. That's my belief on it. And I've been at this about 22 years.
All right. So do you think then that Diddy will end up with the same fate as Epstein?
I don't know. With the Franklin network, you had two primary pimps. You had Craig Spence and you had Ghislaine Maxwell. Or I should say, you had Lawrence King of Omaha, and then you had Craig Spence of Washington, D.C. In the Epstein network, you've got two primary pimps. You've got Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. With Diddy, we know that he serves that function. But with the first case, the Franklin case, Lawrence King, I think that King was given a talking to, and Spence, I think, was given a choice of either he could kill himself or he could be killed. And I think King was sat down and said, well, you know, you've done some good work for us. You've helped us compromise some people. If you can keep your mouth shut, you're going to do some time, and then we'll put you away for a while. And then after that, we're going to give you a no-show job at a BMW dealership in Alexandria, Virginia. I think the same deal was made with Maxwell. If she kept her mouth shut, and Maxwell's already in a minimum security dorm setting. So, which usually takes inmates years, especially one with a 20-year bid. I think Epstein was incorrigible at that point. His head had gotten too big. And I think that Epstein either killed himself or someone facilitated his suicide. And I don't know what's gonna, it's interesting. Epstein was kept in the Metropolitan Community Corrections Center, MCC, in Manhattan. And for some inexplicable reason, they've got Diddy in Brooklyn, which is kind of strange. He should be at that particular prison, but he's not.
Yeah, the one Epstein was in was closed down. So now they got the people in the Brooklyn one. All right, so we've got almost 1,500 people watching live. If you've just joined us, I'm with Nick Bryant, who first published Epstein's Little Black Book. So he's covered Franklin, Epstein, the parallels. We're doing the parallels now with the Diddy case. So wherever you are in the world watching, we've got the links to all of his stuff in the description box. Check out his work. Follow him. He's on Twitter. He's active on Twitter. But we've got him live right now. So please get your questions in the chat. You've got a unique opportunity to pick the mind of Nick Bryant. And the first question is from Anita. And Anita's wondering about the tapes. So let me add to that, Nick, because, you know, there was all this furore about the Epstein tapes. We interviewed one of the cops out of Florida, Joseph Recurry, who was one of the cops who went in and seized evidence, said he was worried it wouldn't see the light of day. He died mysteriously in his 50s. Another one of the cops fled to Russia, and nothing ever came out. We never saw any Epstein tapes. Will the same thing happen with Diddy? Or are we going to actually see evidence? Will evidence be presented at a trial, for example?
I believe that the footage of Diddy is probably going to end up in the same place as the footage of Epstein, a black hole that goes right to a dark, malignant corner of our intelligence. It's interesting. When Epstein killed himself, the Fed said that his case was closed. So I put in some Freedom of Information Act requests requesting not, we know that hundreds to maybe thousands of DVDs were taken out of his safe when it was drilled. And I didn't request the DVDs, I requested reports on the DVDs. And I was told that the case was ongoing. So 6 months later or so, I requested reports on the DVDs, and the case was still ongoing, even though he's been dead for quite some time. So it's going to take the American citizens to get together and really, because what we've got with Franklin, what we've got with Epstein, what we've got with Diddy, I mean, Diddy was trafficking children. Diddy trafficked children for years, and actually 3 of the lawsuits that have been filed against him, 2 were filed by minors, and 1 was filed by a hip hop producer named Little Rod, who said that Diddy was constantly trafficking children, that there were constantly children at his parties, if you want to call them parties. So we're going, the government is going to cover that up unless Americans can make a stand. If Americans can come together and say, we do not want the government involved. When you cover up a crime, you're aiding and abetting that crime. And So consequently, our government aided and abetted child trafficking with Franklin. Our government aided and abetted child trafficking with Epstein, and our government is currently aiding and abetting child trafficking with Diddy.
All right, let's try and say child transportation. otherwise YouTube won't show anyone your video if we say that other word too much.
Okay.
But yeah. So there's this huge story out there that there's a video of someone who's way more famous than Diddy, and that person's trying to get that video suppressed. Do you think there's legitimacy behind that? Because a lawyer is involved who's supposedly been approached to broker the deal.
Well, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is considered the most powerful federal law enforcement person in New York City, he's a cover-up guy. He's been a cover-up guy for a long time. He is part of the corrupt Clinton political machine. And he was the guy that covered up Epstein. There were only, at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, there were only 4 victims, Epstein victims, that were called to testify. And none of them had been molested by the power brokers. They'd been exclusively molested by Epstein and Maxwell. And that's how they basically covered that up is, well, William Barr, the Attorney General under Trump, started that cover up. But Damian Williams, the Democrat, picked under Biden, really finished it up with that very carefully choreographed trial that was the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And now he is the one that's overseeing the Diddy case. And as I said earlier, there are 2 cases that we know of minors that have alleged that P. Diddy has molested them. And then there's the Little Rod allegations. And then these allegations that have come out from Busby, he's talking about 30 minors coming forward. So Diddy was actively involved in trafficking minors, but he is not he has not been indicted for a single count of child trafficking. And the indictments that have been leveled against him, the 3 indictments, it's a massive cover-up by Damian Williams. And people should know that name, Damian Williams, because he is the guy that's covering all this up. He is the guy that got indictments against P. Diddy for a conspiracy, but no one else has been busted. It's kind of like Epstein and Maxwell were busted or Maxwell went to trial for child trafficking conspiracy, but no one else was a co-conspirator. So we're seeing the same thing play out with Diddy.
So what's motivating him to contain the situation?
What was that, Sean?
What's motivating him to contain the situation, to cover it up?
With these kind of guys, with these kind of cover-up guys, you don't really know the backstory. He could be a guy, and there's different types of people that cover these type of crimes up. Some of them are just hungry for power. They want to move up the ladder. In the Franklin scandal, one of the epicenters of the Franklin network was Omaha, Nebraska. And Omaha is in Douglas County, Nebraska. The Douglas County prosecutor there were 2 kids that wouldn't recant their abuse, and both were indicted on multiple counts of perjury. And Alicia Owen was one of them. And it was a very dirty kangaroo court that found this girl who was 21 years old guilty on 8 counts of perjury, and she was sentenced to between 9 and 15 years in prison. And actually, the authorities really tried to destroy her. They put her in solitary for 2 years. That prosecutor immediately became a judge. And then her next prosecutor, who was a very dirty guy, he became a U.S. attorney. The U.S. magistrate that helped cover it up became a U.S. District Court judge, and the U.S. and the magistrate that did help it cover it up ultimately became a U.S. District Court judge. So I don't know if I said that right, but Thomas Tolkien was the U.S. attorney that helped cover it up. He became a magistrate. And Richard Koff was the magistrate that helped cover it up, and he became a U.S. attorney. So with these type of people, a lot of them are willing to make Faustian pacts for power, but I think a couple of them were probably compromised. And that's what we probably have with a number of the people in the government that are facilitating this cover-up. I do not know whether or not Damian Williams is compromised, but I know that if he's not compromised, he's one of those guys that's willing to make a Faustian pact, would sell it his grandmother for power. There are a lot of people like that.
So I'm here with Nick Bryant, who did a lot on the Franklin scandal. And as you can see on your screen right now, going back to the original article, investigators' death leads to suspicions about foul play. And it says Franklin credit investigator and young son killed in crash of private plane. And when I spoke to Busby the other night, I told him about that, and I said he needs to make sure he's got security 24/7. And Nick, we've got a question come in from Burr in the Woods on the Franklin scandal. Nick, I live in Nebraska, and I believe the Franklin scandal players are still active in Boys Town, Omaha. People of all ages are going missing a lot these days in Nebraska. What do you think?
I've been at this for 22 years. I've been researching and writing about networks. I've spoken at multiple child trafficking conferences, international child trafficking conferences. Networks there are child trafficking networks, child transportation networks, sorry, Sean, everywhere. They're ubiquitous. They're in every state. Wherever there's a major city, there's going to be a child trafficking network. It's like drug addicts find each other. So do these guys. They have a knack for finding each other. And Boys Town was definitely plundered for underage victims. And I don't know if it's still being plundered for underage victims, but what Boys Town covered up was really, really egregious, because that network was plundering Boys Town for underage victims.
And it was only victims who ended up incarcerated, wasn't it?
Well, there were two victims that wouldn't recant their accounts of abuse, which is kind of amazing because they had law enforcement, the Department of Justice, FBI bearing down on them. One was Alicia Owen, who I talked about earlier, and one was Paul Benassi. Alicia was also indicted on 8 counts by a federal grand jury, so she was looking at 200 years in prison, and she refused to recant accounts of her abuse. And as I said earlier, she was sentenced between 9 and 15 years, and it's incomprehensible, really. She was a 21-year-old kid, and she was put in prison or in solitary for 2 years.
I mean, think about that, folks. You've got this big investigation into the club who are doing these heinous acts on kids, crimes, horrific crimes, and it's all investigated. One of the investigators goes down in a plane crash with his son, dies, and the only people who go to prison are some of the survivors who are speaking out against these monsters. I mean, the whole thing is completely upside down. So we've got well over 2,000 watching live. Get your questions in for Nick Bryant, please. And all of his links are at the top of the description box. We're looking at the parallels between the Diddy case and Epstein and Franklin, all of which Nick is an expert on. So next question is from Dean. Why has Maxwell not said anything? Has she been compromised with early release? Going to get some backsheesh to a high court appeals judge and get released, probably. Bill Cosby'd out.
Salute, fam.
Maxwell is already in a dormitory. She was given 20 years, and she's been in a dormitory for about a year, which is the cushiest of the cushy. When it comes to federal prisons, Sean might know something about that.
Club fed.
Club
doing
fed.
yoga.
And so I believe that Maxwell was given an offer she couldn't refuse, as Vito Corleone would say. You can either keep your mouth shut, do some time, and then when you get out, you'll have money, or you will end up like Jeffrey Epstein. And I think that she took the former instead of the latter.
And Jean-Luc Brunel, he ended up like Jeffrey.
Jean-Luc,
all right.
yes.
So Kamak Channel is asking, what do you think about Elon Musk saying that Epstein's list will be the same as Kamala Harris donor list? This is the Epstein client list.
This is something that really annoys me. There is no Epstein client list. There is the black book that I put on the internet in 2015. Yes, the black book I put on the internet in 2015. There is no client list. I've been investigating Epstein for 12 years. And I find it mind-boggling that people talk about this client list that is non-existent. Like, he supposedly kept, so we've got his black book, which has a bunch of pedophiles or a bunch of perpetrators in it. And did he just keep, like, on a yellow pad or something, a sticky of all his clients? No, it did not work that way. They were in his black book, which I put on the internet in 2015. Again, there is no client list. Was I emphatic enough about that, Sean?
Yes, we've got the picture. Next question is from Helena, who's asking about Maxwell's father's connections to Mossad.
Well, her father was definitely connected to Israeli intelligence and the Mossad. And according to Ari Ben-Menashe, he was trying to shake down the Mossad for some money. He ran a publishing empire, and the people that worked for him, he plundered their retirement benefits. And he, according to Ari Ben-Menashe, who Sean has interviewed before, he went to the Mossad and tried to shake them down, and it didn't work out very well for him because he ended up like Mr. Epstein and Craig Spence.
Indeed. Which leads to the next question from Michelle. What is the significance of people in the black book having a ring around their name, do you think?
Alfredo Rodriguez was the house manager of Jeffrey Epstein, and he was the guy that purloined the black book. And he circled people that he said were in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein as far as the child trafficking went. And there are a number of names that are circled, and the book is floating around the internet. It's been replicated, and it's all over the internet. And you can type in black book and Epstein black book, and there'll be a number of PDF copies that come up at this point. But according to Alfredo Rodriguez, the people that were circled, he had personally witnessed in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein.
All right, next question is from Gordon. Hi, Nick. The NDAs that the diddler had people signing, were it legal? Is this guy a master manipulator?
Okay, the diddler, I'll give you a little background on the diddler. His dad was a drug dealer and possibly an informant. At least, I think that he was moving drugs for Frank Lucas. I haven't been able to corroborate it, but anyway, he was murdered. And the diddler grew up outside of New York City in Mount Vernon. And he attended college for a couple of years and dropped out and and then he got involved in the music industry. His fortunes changed considerably when he hooked up with Clive Davis in 1993, and they founded Bad Boy Records. And Clive Davis is a nasty piece of work. And I think that Clive Davis is probably the diddler's wormhole into this universe that we're currently discussing. Clive Davis, there was a documentary that came out about him. It was essentially an infomercial. Clive Davis is bad news. But what's interesting about Clive Davis is just his level of criminality, and the dude hasn't spent one day in jail. He was busted by the IRS for defrauding them of taxes for 3 years, and also of false tax returns. He was busted in the biggest payola scandal in music history. And payola is when record companies give money to either DJs or radio stations to play their records. That is against the law. But where it really turns kind of ugly is Clive Davis there was a Genovese crime family guy named Patsy Pasquale Falcone, and he got busted smuggling 22 pounds of heroin into the United States. And the feds started to dig into Falcone, and they came across Clive Davis because Clive Davis was in business with Falcone. At the time, Clive Davis was head of CBS Records, and he was setting up shell companies that he was siphoning money from CBS Records into shell companies, and him and this Genovese guy were splitting the profits. So, and those are the criminalities that I know of about Clive Davis. IRS stuff, payola stuff, involved with shell companies and embezzlement and organized crime. And do you know how many days Clive spent in jail for all that illegality? He didn't spend 1 day in jail. So that is the person that I think took Diddy by the hand and started to walk down the yellow brick road with.
Wow, this reminds me of Epstein's relationship with Wexner. And Wexner's name was bandied about a lot.
All small.
But of course, the book stopped and there was nothing there in terms of indictments. Do you think that Clive Davis, with these allegations that you're making, something could come of that in terms of an indictment?
No, actually, these aren't allegations. They're heavily, everything that I've just relayed to you is heavily reported in the media. I believe, this is my personal belief, I believe that Clive Davis hasn't spent a day in jail because he's working with the government or some dark malignant corner of the government, or he's an informant, one or the other. Because, as you know, Sean, I mean, you cannot be involved in that level of criminality and not spend a day in prison unless you're helping the feds out. I mean, that's the only way that's going to happen.
Yeah, all right. We've got tons of questions coming in now. I'm just trying to screen which one to give you next because there's so many.
As long as you're psychotic, I'm willing to answer them.
Hind is asking, how many billionaires do you know are in prison or multimillionaires? There's not many, is there? Okay.
I'm not aware of a single billionaire that's in prison. Maybe there might be some oligarchs, some Russian oligarchs who Putin has put in a. So, but I'm not aware of any American oligarchs.
We've got a question. It's gone off the subject a little bit, but I'll give it you anyway. What do you think about the allegations that Lou Taylor stole Britney's money and something to do with the Kardashians washing money? Is any of that true?
I have no idea. I try to stay as far away from the Kardashians as I possibly can. So, I mean, look what they did to Bruce Jenner. I mean, I rest my case.
Helen is wondering if the feds went in just to hide the tapes.
I believe it's interesting that Homeland Security took the lead on this. The tell on this The search warrants on Diddy were executed in LA and Miami, and the tell on it is that they emanated from the Southern District of New York. Common sense would dictate that the Federal District of LA and the Federal District of Southern Florida would have served those search warrants on P. Diddy's home. This investigation is being carefully choreographed in New York City by U.S. Attorney Damian Williams. And as long as Damian Williams is overseeing this case, it's going to be covered up. As I said earlier, he's dirty and he's all about covering this up. Usually the FBI would go in. Now, Homeland Security does have an anti-human trafficking division, but these guys seem primarily concerned. Diddy had a bunch of hidden cameras. I mean, and actually, someone at Homeland Security even confessed to that. You can go to my website, and I wrote a blog called P. Diddy and U.S. Attorney Damian Williams, Let the Games Begin, where I quote a Homeland Security officer that said, yeah, there's definitely hidden cameras in Diddy's home. And then I also quote a former bodyguard of Diddy saying that definitely Diddy was blackmailing people. And those corroborate Little Rod and other people that have made allegations about hidden cameras and blackmail. But could Diddy, and this is something that people don't really understand, especially in the Epstein case. Epstein was a college dropout, much like Diddy, and he was blackmailing some of the most powerful people in the world, not in just the United States, but in the world. Les Wexner. I wrote a protracted article on Jeffrey Epstein, and I got involved in, and I looked pretty closely at his relationship with Les Wexner. I started an organization called Epstein Justice, and you can go to epsteinjustice.com and read that article. There's a link to that article, which was published in the Sheer Post. With what Diddy did and with what Epstein did, you cannot, especially, all the facts haven't really come out with Diddy yet, but with Epstein was a college dropout from a blue-collar family in Coney Island. There's no way that he could have blackmailed some of the most powerful people in the world. Les Wexner gave Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over his billions in 1987. But Les Wexner had definitely big-time mob connections. If you read that article, it links to a police report, a Columbus Police Department report, where an attorney that worked for The Limited, which was Les Wexner's clothing brand, was shot in the back of the head, execution style, in broad daylight in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow.
The prime suspect, according to that police report, and you can click on that police report if you go to that article, is Les Wexner. He is the prime suspect. And the article also talks about his connections to organized crime. The police chief, who is obviously not so much concerned about justice as he was concerned about Les Wexner, ordered that homicide report to be destroyed. And actually, someone in law enforcement was able to smuggle a report out, and that's why it's disseminated, and that's how I got a copy of it.
All right, we've got a question from Poppy Himbo, and this is interesting in the context. I don't know if you've seen the police interview of Jonathan Oddy, who shot up the Trump Hotel and then started spilling his guts about being a slave for Diddy and giving a lot of information. The cops thought he was crazy at the time, but now it's all coming out. And he's talking about Diddy being in these secret societies. And Poppy is asking, is the lowest common denominator in all of these stories secret societies?
Well, I do not know of Epstein being in a secret society, and I do not know of Lawrence King was heavily into the occult. I don't know if Craig Spence was. People have wondered whether or not Epstein was heavily into the occult. He had that little temple on his island and with an owl, and some people believe that it's Moloch, which is the god that children were sacrificed to. With Diddy, we don't know. Now, there is some occult stuff coming out about Diddy. And one of the people that are making the allegations, her name is Allie Carter. But at this point, we just don't have, I believe, a critical mass to tie them all to some type of secret occult society. Is it possible? Absolutely. Do we have the evidence that's required? I'm a very, very circumspect journalist. And anybody who reads my stuff realizes that, I do a lot of research. We don't have the goods on that quite yet. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying we don't have the goods.
Question from Amy. Why has Wexner never been brought to task?
Well, there was a question a few questions ago about, are there any billionaires in prison? So, I mean, that kind of says it all.
Money, but you can buy what justice you can afford in America.
The best justice money can buy, Sean.
Question from Janet. Yes, we know about Jeffrey, but why did Wexner give Jeffrey access to everything?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. Why did, in 1987, why did Wexner give the keys of his kingdom to Jeffrey Epstein? The keys of his kingdom. He power of attorney over everything. And this shows you how lame the mainstream media is. The mainstream media really went to bat for Wexner, trying to say that he was bamboozled by this con man. And there was an article in Vanity Fair. I mean, they expect people to buy this. There was an article in Vanity Fair that said the reason why you can look at the article. The reason why Les Wexner gave Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney to his empire is because he was lonely. And I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up. He was lonely. If I ever become a billionaire and I get lonely, I'm going to give you power of attorney over everything, okay? You got to make sure I'm not lonely. You got to call once or twice a week. Hang out with me at least once a month. And I'll give you power.
Wow. I'll take all your assets if you're lonely. Don't worry. All right. So next question is from KC. Are the rumors true that the feds went to the Epstein Island and filled all the tunnels in?
Now, I've heard that, and it's entirely possible. But again, I've heard it, but I haven't been able to corroborate it. So I don't have sufficient proof on that. I'm not one of these guys. If you go to the podcasts and people in the media, they're cranking out a lot of salacious dirt that they have no proof for. I'm not one of those guys. And I think that the salacious dirt has really, really hurt justice in this situation. People just want that salacious dirt on Epstein. Actually, the media has groomed people to want salacious dirt rather than justice. And that's a true travesty. So that's on the media. For grooming people to want salacious dirt instead of justice in these types of cases. But then it's also on the people for being bamboozled by that too.
All right, we've got almost 3,000 watching live across all the platforms right now. With Nick Bryant, he is credited with the first person releasing Epstein's Little Black Book way back over a decade ago. And he's an expert on the Franklin scandal, and he's doing the parallels with those cases and Diddy presently. You got a question from KC as to whether Epstein's book or island was connected to Disney in any way.
I hear a number of sordid things that come up with Disney, but I haven't found definitive connections between Disney and Epstein. That does not, I approach everything agnostically. I don't believe, I don't disbelieve until I have proof. And I'm not saying that that is impossible. I'm just saying that I don't have the proof. I don't have the goods on that type of a connection.
All right. If you've got questions for Nick, we are live. Get them in the chat now, and we will put them to him. And the first question is from Gina. How about those above Clive Davis, like Ron Buckle?
With Clive Davis, we do not know exactly who is above him. We do not know who he's reporting to. He is he's kind of, as famous as he is, he's kind of this mystery man in the respect that he has been a criminal over decades. And he's ripped off God knows how many musicians over the years too. Everybody that I've ever known that I've talked to Clive Davis with, that's known Clive Davis, who I've talked to, has said that Clive Davis is a really nasty piece of work. I don't know exactly. I do believe that Clive Davis is working with the government, absolutely. But there's no way that he could not be, given his criminality and that he hasn't spent a day in jail. But I do not know exactly who he's reporting to.
Claudia's wondering who were the beneficiaries of Jeffrey's estate?
His brother, I think, gets the biggest chunk. You've got the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund now that was giving settlements to victims of Epstein. But that was the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund was truly fraudulent. David Boies was one of the, it was run by Jordana Feldman, who worked with the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund, and also David Boies, who is a very dirty lawyer. He likes to deploy Black Cube, which is a group of Israeli mercenaries. And if you go up against David Boies, he'll deploy Black Cube on you to discredit you. He deployed Black Cube on reporters at the New York Times that were writing a story about Harvey Weinstein's absolute viciousness. Rose McGowan was one of the first actresses to speak out. He sicked Black Cube on her. And then he was on the board of Theranos, which was run by grifter Elizabeth Holmes. And people that were saying that Elizabeth Holmes was a grifter, which she definitely was, he would sick Black Cube on them too. So David Boies is a nasty piece of work. And when he got involved with the Epstein victims, he immediately brought in Stan Pottinger. And there's a video on my website called The Alpha and Omega of the Epstein Cover-Up. And I really showed that Stan Pottinger is definitely a government agent, an intelligence agent. This is kind of funny. I mean, I give a number of examples of Pottinger was an associate attorney general, and he covered up many crimes. But then he stopped being associate attorney general and said, you know, I've been covering up crimes all these years. I might as well become a criminal. So he was busted on tape selling arms to the Iranians. This is when the Iranians were our sworn enemies, and that was high treason. And that paragon of integrity, Rudolph Giuliani, was going after Stan Pottinger. And you know what happened? The Department of Justice lost the tapes of Stan Pottinger talking to the Hashimi brothers about arms deals. Can you believe that? That they, Rudolph Giuliani, that, I mean, it's got to be true, right? If Rudolph Giuliani says it. So, yeah, I mean, the Department of Justice lost those tapes. But anyway, Stan Pottinger is a nasty piece of work. And that victims' compensation fund is completely fraudulent. 225 women have applied for compensation. And there's no criteria. It's all opaque. It's done behind a curtain. We don't know what qualifies, what disqualifies people. But 225 women have applied for settlements. Settlements have been awarded to 150 women. 8 have declined. So it's given out 142 settlements. Now, if you get money from that fund, you've got to sign an NDA saying that you will not litigate against any of your other perpetrators. So that Epstein Victims Compensation Fund is accomplishing something that the government couldn't do. It's preventing these young women or women from suing their other perpetrators. And it's got a strict criteria. I've been involved with anti-trafficking for a number of years, and I've gotten to know a number of therapists, psychologists that work with trafficking victims. And I know a psychologist who is an eminent psychologist, and she believes that one of the people that she counsels was trafficked by Epstein when she was under 10 years old. And they applied for compensation and they were turned down. And I know another therapist who also was working with someone who said that they were under 10 years old when they were trafficked by Epstein. And they applied for compensation and they were turned down. And we know that the media has settled on 14 years old as being the youngest age of the Epstein victims, but a number of sources have said that they're younger than that. And Epstein liked pubescent girls. With Lawrence King in the Franklin scandal, Lawrence King primarily liked pubescent boys, but he was a psychopath. Epstein was a psychopath. If you want an 8-year-old, if you want a 9-year-old, these guys would give you an 8 or 9-year-old. That wasn't, I mean, it's not like they had to deal with the pangs of their conscience. So that Epstein Victims Compensation Fund is a sham. I mean, it really should be outed, but no one in the mainstream media really cares about things like that.
CJ is wondering why honey traps keep being used.
Well, I once wrote, if love is blind, lust is deaf, dumb, and quadriplegic. So you've got our politicians who have this potent psychological alchemy of high-powered lust and high-powered arrogance. And nothing makes people stupid like high-powered arrogance and a high-powered lust. Look at Bill Clinton. Very, very intelligent guy. And he couldn't prevent himself from having oral sex in the White House on probably multiple occasions. We know of one, certainly. So these guys, Clarence Thomas, you can go to my website, mcbriennyc.com. I show that Clarence Thomas is a total freak. And I've used this analogy before. If you've heard me before talk about this, I'm sorry. But once you get compromised, in the Franklin scandal, I got to a blackmail photographer. And I was just kind of cutting my teeth on it. And I said, well, how does this work? And he goes, once you're compromised, you're on a yacht. It's like you're on a yacht, and it's a beautiful day. And you can have anything you want on the yacht. But if you decide to get off the yacht, the people on the yacht are going to make sure that you drown. So once you're compromised, there's zero incentive to get off that yacht. And actually, your career, as I mentioned some judicial officers earlier, whose career went up, 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 once they engaged in covering up the Franklin credit and the Franklin trafficking network. And with Epstein, I'm sure that there's a number of people that have experienced upward mobility too. And once you bought into that, once you are on the yacht, there is zero incentive to get off the yacht.
Question from KC. This is interesting because Gates tried to minimize, like Clinton tried to minimize his involvement with Jeffrey. But then Gates' wife came out and said a few things, made a shot across the bow. So Casey's asking, do you think Gates will ever be revealed with Jeffrey, like the full extent of what happened? His wife divorced him, so it must be true, right?
The mainstream media has really let us down on this. According to an article in the Evening Standard published in 2001 about Epstein, Epstein and Gates were doing business in the 1990s. Now, you can go on LexisNexis and get that article, like I did. Why the consensus among the media now is that they met in 2011, but there's this article that they were doing business in the 1990s. Why hasn't anybody in the media? I can't be the only guy in the media that's read that article. Why haven't other people in the media read that article and actually looked into it? It just shows you, it's just another example of how compromised our media is when it comes to these type of situations.
Question from Helena. What about the corrupted child protection services and orphanages, some of whom are said to pass on kids?
Well, that was certainly the case with the Franklin scandal in Boys Town. The number 2 guy at Boys Town, his name was Father James Kelly, and he was an inveterate pedophile. He molested a bunch of kids in upstate New York, and the Catholic Church, in its infinite wisdom, decided to move him to Boys Town.
Oh.
And there have been a number of allegations about various orphanages. Spain had the kind of scandal that we're talking about. And one of its premier orphanages was used for victims. So these guys know how to get kids, know where to prey. Epstein was actually buying children in Eastern Europe, buying them. And people said, well, how do you buy a child? And once you get into that level of just evil and organized crime, people are going to be able to find children all over. I mean, you just have to go to an orphanage and compromise someone or give someone money or threaten to kill someone, and they'll give some kids up. I mean, that's unfortunately the way that it is.
Yeah, and they go to these war-torn countries and stuff like that.
Yep.
All right, so question from Brady. Nick, how do we as people demand honesty and justice?
Okay, I started an organization called EpsteinJustice.com, or actually Epstein Justice, and go to EpsteinJustice.com. We could use your help. We're starting town hall forums at this point. We did our first forum in Iowa. We're going to do our second forum in Houston. What we're doing is we're building an infrastructure of people who want justice. This issue is really, I think, can unite the right and the left, if the right and the left want to be united. What we have with Franklin, what we have with Epstein, and what we're starting to see with P. Diddy is we have the government covering up child trafficking, which child trafficking is the most heinous of crimes. And you cover up a crime, you're aiding and abetting that crime. So there are parts of our government that are aiding and abetting child trafficking. And the congressional approval rating is 12 or 13% at this point. So it's very obvious to me that Congress isn't working in our best interest. Why isn't Congress working in our best interest? People will say special interest money. Well, that is true, but I do believe that a lot of our federal Congress, the people that represent us federally, are compromised. And there was he's actually still in the House of Representatives. He's from Tennessee. His name was Tim Burchett. In December, he came out and said, my colleagues are being compromised in honey traps. I've been saying, I personally have been saying that for 22 years. So it was kind of nice to have a sitting member of Congress saying that.
Question from Jamie. Why hasn't one reporter interviewed the two sleepy jailers that were there on the night when Jeffrey ended himself?
Because they're not going to talk. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, there were so many anomalies that night. And then Bill Barr, who did cover up Epstein, actually, Bill Barr, this is kind of interesting with Bill Barr. He's got a very dirty past. I think Sham probably knows a little bit about Bill Barr and the Contras. But Bill Barr has a very dirty past. And he was the attorney general, the associate attorney general, and the attorney general who covered up Franklin. And he was also Trump's attorney general who covered up Epstein. So this guy has covered up two major pedophile networks that are linked to intelligence and blackmail.
Wow. Michelle wants to know the significance of Courtney Love having a ring around her name in Epstein's book.
That I cannot tell you, but with Courtney Love, I'm surmising that there might be some aberrations there. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Someone's asking about the percentage of Brits versus Americans in the chat. I'll answer this. Looking at the analytics, we've got a big American audience, and that's the majority of the people in the chat, and it's about 50%. And I think the Brits are about 20 to 30%. And then we've got the rest. All right, so RB's interested in the United Nations and child transportation. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. I've heard innuendo, but I don't know. I'm dubious of the United Nations, rightfully so, but I've not come across that.
All right, we're almost at the hour, folks. If anyone's got any final questions.
We gotta load this video in the evidence, because when I seen this video, I said, "Oh man, these dudes been knowing this." Now, just pay attention to this dude, P. Diddy, while this other dude is talking. Look at this dude in the background. You can tell he on drugs.
Hold on. Both of y'all. Let's get both of y'all. Ain't no dick ride going on. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no dick.
Nigga, this nigga getting naked right there next to, oh, this is a gay freak off party that they was on camera. Just look at this nigga Diddy. Y'all pay attention?
Get both of y'all. Ain't no dick ride going on. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no dick ride going on at all.
You niggas talk about what type of gay sausage fest? What type of gay sausage?
Y'all, let's get both of y'all. Ain't no dick ride going on. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no dick ride going on at all.
You niggas talk about balling and just this and that. I know y'all thinking watch, rolly, bracelet.
Yeah, it ain't no watch.
No. This is how we smoke.
Check your man out. Check your man out.
This nigga just did a ballerina. This nigga just did a ballerina spin and then tilted his hands. then tilted his hands like a punk. What type of sausage fresh this thing?
No. This is how we smoke.
Check your man out. Check your man out.
Come on, man, you can't make this up. This nigga full of drugs over there having an orgy with these black dudes. But I don't know how this. I never seen this video in my life. Now this video come back out. They got this nigga Diddy over there spinning around like a ballerina. You see him at the beginning of the video. He just wanted to get buck naked. Nigga like, no, man, keep your boxers on, bro. You tripping. But then he just can't help himself. He ready for the freak off.
No. This is how
he let you know.
Check your man out. Check your
He
man
the ballerina. He the ballerina. He letting you know he the woman. This is dude right. This is disgusting. But this is evidence. This is evidence. This is how he partied. Really partied with this nigga. This nigga a ballerina.
Yeah, it ain't no watch.
No. This is how we smoke.
Check your man out. Check your man out.
Yeah, this let him do his thing.
Yeah, I'm letting him
the
do
whole
his thing.
crew smokes, you know.
Everybody
check
smokes.
it. This is what I got for him, huh?
Let's zip it. Let me zip in on it. About.
This is a gay sausage fest. P. Diddy done sprinkled. P. Diddy done shot with this nigga right here, his boy toy with some jewels. And this nigga here thought this shit was cool to get this on tape. P. Diddy really fucked it up. He didn't know P. Diddy was gonna be trying to get naked. But remember, this is how P. Diddy did Meek Mill. You know what I'm saying? You earned it, daddy. You got it, daddy. See, this is his earlier version of calling niggas daddy. See, back then, he felt himself 15 years later. He don't care. He was openly flirting with the niggas. Back then, he just spin around like a ballerina and tilt his hand like a punk and let them niggas know that he the woman.
The platinum, what? Ice face, PD, guaranteed to get charged.
Oh, nigga, you sleep with P. Diddy, nigga. Are you sleeping with P. Diddy, nigga? I don't give a fuck because you got some. What the fuck? What the gifts P. Diddy sprinkled on you, nigga? You sleep with that man? Hell, you told he ruined your video. You didn't want him to do all that Fruit Loop shit, but he done it, nigga. Just to letting the handler see. Diddy speaking to his handlers through all these videos. Let them know he turning these niggas out. He sprinkling this nigga with gifts. This nigga trying to act like he a cool gangster. Boy, you sleep with P. Diddy, nigga.
K.A. Pipe.
Now, let me zoom in on the blicky.
What y'all niggas know about the remote control joint?
I wasn't here to put it down last night. We put it down like the B.I.G.
Now they back to trying to act like they some real nigga. He back to bed acting like he the hip hop. You just was dancing like a ballerina.
Tell us some shit. I don't even love God, no.
Wolf, say that ain't so, Wolf.
The double X show that is too sniffs.
And I just want to let everybody know my man got an afro in the middle of his shit.
But at least Wolf, what was you? R.I.P. Wolf. What was you doing now, Wolf? I thought you was what type of homo thugs is y'all, man? I thought you was solid, Wolf. Oh man. P. Diddy was dancing like a ballerina right there in front of you, Wolf. You laughing. Oh man, you slept your way to the top.
It's a little deep in there. All right, boom, nigga, stick a couple of quarters in there, blah.
Look at him lusting over Wolf. This is disgusting.
This is Jewel of the day. You better be good. Hang with me tonight, because we're going to have some fun.
Hang with him tonight. They're going to party, really party. Look, man, everybody walking in like they some thugs. They some G's. That nigga was just dancing like a ballerina, put his hands down like a punk, and was getting naked for you niggas. What the hell? Right in your face. I had to show y'all this so we get deeper into it. I can't see the same Wolf. I know you're a killer. We see. Oh, Jigga! Look, evidence, y'all. Please, y'all, let me enter this evidence into the court. I've been telling y'all before Jigga blew up, this nigga wanted to be like Puff. He didn't have all the no pies, no cakes, just Hawaiian shirts. Nigga, you hang with Chase, you a phony, a fan, a stand. Ha! You 36 in a karate class, you talk about, okay, let me get this shit back together. Jigga, you remember what Nas told you? You wasn't rich back then, Jigga. Nigga was in the entourage hanging around Diddy. Oh, let me get it. You Dame, you Biggie, and he Puffy. Damon, he said Damon J. But anyway, here's Jay right here. Was you dancing like a ballerina too? Oh man, these niggas Fruit Loops, man. Almost thugs, man.
Oh, okay.
Nah, we don't look at you the same, nigga.
The reality
Almost
of B.I.
thugs.
dying finally sunk in. Shit was real in the field, man. And the family had to stick
Dang, say it ain't so, dang.
together more than ever. It was around the time when dudes was getting tattooed.
Oh man, ain't that? See, boy. These tapes, they trying to hide these tapes now. They're trying to hide these tapes now. But P Diddy, see what P Diddy did? That's called a photo bomb. He photo bombed them niggas. They're like, oh shit, goddamn, this nigga P Diddy all in the video. Suge warned them about that. P Diddy wanted to be all in the videos, dancing around like a ballerina. Holding, and that nigga straight put his hand down like a sister. That nigga was on them drugs, nigga. He couldn't wait for the cameras to turn off so he can get loose. He was finna pull all his drugs right there. He's like, oh man, what y'all? I rented this place for a week, man. We gotta start getting busy, man. Oh man, come on, what y'all waiting on? Clown ass nigga.
Now, peeps, it looks like Forever My Lady star Devontae Swing of the famed R&B group Jodeci has a lawsuit from Liza Gardner. The initial lawsuit was announced back in November against Diddy and the singer Aaron Hall. She accused the two of actually assaulting her in 1990 when she was only 16 years old and highly intoxicated.
He did it.
In a now amended complaint, Gardner has added that Devontae Swing into the bunch as a co-defendant. Now, she claims the R&B group member was present at Aaron's Hall home where
I can guarantee you we ain't gonna have nobody listen to the radio, no rap, no R&B. We ain't gonna have no basketball heroes. We ain't gonna have no actors. The truth is, all of them was perverts. And you know that deep down, everybody good. You know, damn, everybody you seen on TV is a pervert, bro. So you might as well just get it through your head. You know? All of these is predators, man. All they do is predators, man. They've been preying on women far too long. Yeah, niggas in the hood. You think these niggas in the hood do this disgusting stuff, date rape? You think these dudes was gonna go city to city, state to state on drugs? And all this way gonna come out. Oh, boy, please. It's over. And I don't want to hear the white man been doing it. I don't give a shit. But we're talking about what's going on in our house. Man, nobody talking about the Epstein list. Who gives a shit about Epstein? We're talking about these niggas. I'm gonna let everybody know that. So if you in the wrong place, you're like, oh, you can't believe you're going after a black man. They can shut the hell up, pervert. You next when we find out who you is. So you get in the comment section, we're gonna find out who you is. We probably gonna find out kind of disgusting shit in your history too.
Was allegedly assaulted. Now, not only was he at the home, but in the actual room when it happened, according to her. Now, Gardner's claim is that Devontae stood and watched without interruption as Diddy forcefully raped her after pulling her underwear aside. Now, unbeknownst to Ms. Gardner at the time, defendant Swing was in the room when this assault took place and did not take any steps to prevent this abuse from occurring, according to the lawsuit obtained by the Rolling Stone. And also, according to another woman, he was leaning against a wall or furniture or something, watching whatever Puffy was doing to Liza.
Oh, man,
now, in the same complaint, Gardner says Devontae was believed to be 20 or 21 at the time, making him a few months older than Diddy. Now, according to the lawsuit, Diddy was in charge of developing the group at the time. Now, as for Aaron Hall, who was 26 at the time, Gardner claims he allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and raped her after Diddy was done. She claims that Diddy showed up the day after the assaults and choked her until she passed out. Now, the lawsuit accuses Swing of aiding and abetting as Gardner's co-guardian at the time, since he invited her on the trip. He had a duty.
Hold on. Now, did y'all hear about, and this is because it's all, I got this in the evidence, about Cardi B and the football player Diggs, that Diggs supposed to be sleeping with her when she was pregnant. Okay, that has nothing to do with this. But today, it just released, it's over the internet. I wasn't gonna cover it. That Diggs, a male is coming out, and they showed a video where he was beat up. The male saying that Diggs tried to sexually assault him and take his cheeks, and he didn't want to be involved in none of that P. Diddy. These niggas been partying with Puff. Puff taught these young niggas, I taught all the football players, all these basketball players, Puff done taught these niggas this disgusting behavior. Now we have the football superstar, Diggs, who the same man Cardi B talking about they slept with or whatever, she slept with him. Well, this a man came out today. He released the video. He got beat up by Diggs' brother, who they say they trying to shut him up because they didn't want the world to know that Diggs came on him, tried to drug him and take his motherfucking cheeks. Now you think these niggas ain't out of control? Come on, man. These niggas was partying with Puff. Salute, Queen. Puff taught all of these disgusting little perverts. Hey, the game of date raping. Come on, man.
Duty to protect the child as her parents entrusted him with her safety. Hidden intention of providing the child with alcohol and marijuana use. Now, peeps, this is definitely crazy, man. Now they're getting Jodeci.
Hey, remember what Ray J told Fabulous? I'm gonna put the booty goons on you. Come on, man. What? And people was laughing. That ain't no joke. Ray J said, I'm gonna put the booty goons on you. They gonna take your booty. Come on. Let's put that in a whole new light now. Ray J say he has booty goons that they'll take your booty. Man, come on, man. Ray J partying with Puff.
Wrapped into the lawsuit as well. So not only is Diddy going down, but also parts of Jodeci is going down as well. Now let's get into Thalia Graves, man.
They can get to where some niggas might be a shootout. Now they got booty goons because of Puffy in charge.
He ain't no damn good. Now, peeps, it looks like the lawsuit is down by one.
I'm down. One to go.
Thalia Graves, one of Diddy's new accusers, was exposed by her ex, and he's saying that she made it all up.
This has put a strain on my selection of men and relationships.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
But many relationships became aggressive and
see, because I did a little research on that. Her disgusting boyfriend is getting paid off to tell these lies. This the lady who text messages said me and Jay Prince gonna come see you. Diddy bodyguard revealed that. And the text message talking about me and Jay Prince gonna come see you. This is the woman that they trying to say Jay Prince put in the game to get some ultimate get back on Flea Diddy. But now her boyfriend is saying, see, she promised me $3 million if I was Diddy done pay this man do this nonsense.
Abusive.
Because Gene Deal came out and said it absolutely is true that they was around the neighborhood talking about they seen this video of Diddy and them running around that girl. And I'm gonna fuck you up and show you this. Where did Diddy get that videotaping this shit and then showing the hood? When you listen to Alpo's story, where Alpo from? When you listen to Alpo's story, that's what Alpo used to do. Listen to Alpo's story. That have sex, but he wasn't raping, having sex with them women, videotape it, and then play it for everybody in Harlem to see. Niggas at the basketball courts, niggas watching Alpo have sex with all type of different women in the motherfucking neighborhood, man. That's what P. Diddy got that recording and then showing everybody what he was doing.
Which has made me feel even more alone in my struggles. I go through spells of being distant and withdrawn that it's sometimes so hard to leave my house.
Bro, these people say they got 12,000 calls in 24 hours on PD. We got that video. They say they got 12,000 people that call that line. And they got to go through it to see who lying and who telling the truth. 12,000. It got to be 1,000 telling the truth. 12 in that bitch. What?
The trauma of the assault has taken a toll on my mental health. I've had PTSD, depression, and anxiety. I'm emotionally scarred. It has been hard for me to trust others, to form healthy relationships, or even feel safe in my own skin. Flashbacks, nightmares, and intrusive thoughts make me feel like it's a constant struggle.
Now, wow, look at all those fake tears.
This is a joke, right? You're joking.
Now, this is really a disservice to all of the true victims of the diddler.
Play with me on Halloween. I'm out here with love, nigga. You want to have love? What up, then, nigga? What's up?
Now, she reportedly contacted her ex and bribed him with $3 million to go along with her crazy-ass story. Now, TMZ received some text messages from November 2023 between Thalia and her then-boyfriend, where she mentions that she plans to sue Diddy because he's the one that has the money.
And that's why you're broke.
Now, apparently, he's indicating after getting the messages, he claims that he blocked Talia's phone number and also blocked her on social media, but I don't believe that part right there. Now, she needs to be in jail. I don't care. Any woman or man who falsely accuses someone of such a heinous act needs to be in MF in jail. And also in more Diddy news, man, it looks like his mother is actually coming out. And of course,
she going down. We know what you was doing last summer, Miss Janice. We ain't gonna do that to you. Leonardo DiCaprio, they need to put a ref warrant out for him. Why that man fled to Italy? See, they can't hide in Italy. Shoot, we got so much here, man. They say the dealer could be getting out of jail. Y'all know that.
Crime. 12,000 new accusers have come forward in the case against P. Diddy. That's literally thousands of new allegations pointing the finger at the now disgraced singer, accusing him of coordinating a decades-long sex trafficking scheme. More than 100 civil suits based on these allegations are soon to be headed his way, but Diddy isn't the only one mentioned. Other high-profile names will allegedly be listed in these lawsuits, and before some of these suits are filed and made public, these celebs are reportedly settling outside of court. There's a lot to unpack here, and we'll do it all with civil trial attorney David Ring. I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. Last week, Houston-based attorney Tony Busby made a major announcement. His firm is expected to file 120 civil lawsuits over the next 30 days. And the main defendant? P. Diddy. Last month, the 54-year-old, whose legal name is Sean Combs, was taken into custody in New York after he was indicted by a grand jury. He's now facing federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by forced fraud or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy's arrest came nearly 6 months after federal investigators raided 2 of his homes in both Los Angeles and Miami. We now know the feds collected guns, ammunition, electronic evidence, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant when they executed those search warrants. Federal prosecutors now believe they have a major case against Diddy that could lead to some serious jail time, all thanks to the evidence collected there, including apparently incriminating digital evidence showing something called freak-offs. The federal indictment against Diddy mentions this evidence and also defines freak-offs, saying they were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. But the federal indictment isn't the first time we heard the phrase freak off or got word that some of his illegal activity may have been recorded. Last November, Diddy's ex, Cassandra Ventura, filed civil suit against him, alleging years of abuse, all at the hands of Diddy. And Cassie's lawsuit also introduced us to the now infamous term freak off. She says it started when Mr. Combs hired a man and brought the man to his home in Los Angeles. The man, Mr. Combs, and Miss Ventura wore masquerade masks and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform sexual acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched them. He allegedly masturbated while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific sexual acts. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangement a freak-off, or FO. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Miss Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and the hiring of male sex workers. Okay, I know you're multitasking when you're watching our videos, and if you're out and about running errands, listen up. I have to tell you about the free app Upside that gets you cash back had already been done. Her lawsuit paved the way for at least a dozen more civil suits to be filed against the now disgraced singer, all citing the same terrifying pattern, that Diddy would allegedly drug these victims or force them to drink alcohol that was oftentimes laced. After that, he would sexually assault them or force them to have sex with a prostitute or both. During all this, Diddy often recorded the entire incident and would later use it as blackmail to keep these victims quiet. But it's now these alleged recordings that have become Diddy's undoing in terms of both federal and civil cases. So the recordings are referenced in the indictment against him, but they're also referenced in multiple of Diddy's civil suits. He's listed as a defendant in a dozen suits right now, but that number is about to be bumped to the triple digits over the next month, when 120 new suits are expected to be filed. The attorney behind these lawsuits, Tony Busby, says 60 of the survivors filing suit are women and the other 60 are men. Of them, 25 allege they were sexually assaulted as minors. More than half of these survivors already spoke out about the abuse, reporting it to police or hospitals. As Busby explains, this is not a class action lawsuit, but rather each survivor will file suit against Diddy separately in the state where their incident occurred. Busby says the assaults took place in Los Angeles, Miami, and New York, and they date as far back as 1991. He says these lawsuits will describe multiple new allegations, including violent sexual assault or rape, sexual abuse, facilitating sex with controlled substances, false imprisonment, compelling prostitution, sexual misconduct, dissemination of video recordings, and sexual abuse of minors. Busby held a press conference about these lawsuits on Wednesday. I spoke with him on Thursday, and he told me a staggering number of additional survivors came forward after that presser.
We've had 12,000 calls since, I guess, in about 24 hours. And so our Herculean task is to try to sift through every one of these calls and make sure that we are identifying those who are victims and those who are witnesses and collect evidence. I mean, we have about almost 100 people working on this task. We have 120 cases that we are preparing to file, and we're trying to sift through another 12,000 phone calls and contacts that we've received in the last 24 hours.
You heard that right. 12,000 people came forward in the span of 24 hours. They allege abuse at the hands of Diddy, but some accusers mention other names too. Busby says they're high-profile names that will shock us, meaning some A-list celebrities also allegedly have been involved in these freak-offs. There's also reports that at least one of these major celebs can be seen in an incriminating video taken at a freak-off. So we don't know these names for sure yet, but we could soon, as Busby says he plans to name drop in the coming suits. But there may be a few exceptions. There are some reports that one or multiple of these A-listers is working to settle these lawsuits before they're filed. And if that's the case, we may never know their names at all. There's a lot to unpack here, so it's time to bring in civil trial attorney David Ring. I just wanted to start with this news about the new 120 lawsuits that are set to be filed over the next 30 days. I mean, in the past, we had a dozen civil suits against Diddy, but now more than 100. So what's your reaction there with all these dozens of lawsuits headed his way?
The floodgates have opened. You know, here we go. And what's going to happen is, you know, you have this lawyer out of Texas who's rounding up a lot of new claimants. And we'll see how many actually get filed. But he said that he's got 120 cases. And he says it also includes minors, you know, people who were under the age of 18 when something sexual misconduct occurred between Diddy and the victim. So it's going to be very interesting to see how many of these lawsuits get filed, what the allegations are against Diddy. And again, the other thing that's going to be interesting is they're going to be filed in different jurisdictions. You know, it's not like this is not a class action. This is not just one lawsuit getting filed. That's not how it works. This is going to be apparently 120 or so individual lawsuits scattered across the country, although it sounds like most of them originate in New York. So there's going to be a lot of interesting allegations that come forward in the next few weeks or months when these cases are filed.
As you said, 120 new suits all across the nation, mostly in New York, but still, that's quite a bit of paperwork, to say the least. But then if we're talking about numbers, 12,000 is the next one that jumps out, because the attorney, I actually spoke with him last week. He said after news of this was published that these 120 civil suits were going to be filed, that 12,000 more people came forward to his firm and said that they had been violated by Diddy. Those numbers are just startling to me. What do you make of the thousands who reported?
It's going to be very interesting to see what comes of that. I mean, that's an eye-opening number. That's a number that is difficult at first glance to believe. There's 12,000 people out there that claim that some sort of sexual misconduct occurred to them from one person. And so it wasn't clear to me if he received 12,000 calls about something, or if these were really all legitimate types of cases or people calling. So again, I don't know. Let's take that with a grain of salt, maybe the 12,000 people calling. But what he did say for sure is, he has signed up over 100 people, and obviously has got a lot more calls to go. So we could be looking at several hundred cases when all is said and done.
It's interesting that you point out that number 12,000, because as I was doing the interview, I heard him say 12,000 and I thought, oh, my mind must be auto-correcting. He means 1,200. I'm hearing and then I went back and listened to it and was like, wait, no, he actually said 12,000. So it will be interesting to see. But if that's the case, anyway, we know that we have more than 100 people. How do they go about determining whether a civil case could be filed? Are they corroborating the information, proving that they actually were with Diddy, things like that?
I think it's incredibly important for these civil cases to have corroborative information and corroborative evidence. I mean, that's important in every case, especially a sexual assault case. And the other important thing is the credibility of the victim. Look, there's going to be some very, very, very credible victims that come forward with legitimate cases. But you also have to realize in something like this, there's going to be some people that come forward who are not so credible. They're trying to hop on the gravy train after it's already gone down the litigation route. And so, for any attorney handling any of these cases, it is incredibly important to vet the claimant, to vet the client, to make sure it's a legitimate case, that they can back it up. Because the worst thing that can happen is, these cases get filed and the victim is immediately shown to be untruthful or a liar, or it didn't happen. And that really hurts all of the legitimate victims' cases. And so I think these lawyers are going to have a tough time, not a tough time, but they're going to have to spend a lot of time really vetting these cases to ensure that there's legitimate victims, that there's corroborative evidence, that the dates match up, that the events took place when they say they took place. And that's true of every case, but really true here.
Besides the sheer number of cases that are expected to be filed, a lot of people are talking about that, but we're also talking about the major names that could be listed in these lawsuits. So this attorney has come forward and said, these names are going to shock you. A lot of them are A-list or celebrity, and there will be allegations against them. So there's also been reports that whoever these people may be are worried, retaining attorneys. What do you think is going through their minds if they know they were with Diddy at potentially one of these freak-offs?
Boy, if you're a celebrity at one of these freak-offs, the last thing you want is your name to come out in the media as being a willing participant. And so, yes, I'm sure there are a lot of high-profile people out there right now who are very concerned about what comes next, especially given apparently the evidence that a lot of these events, these freak-offs were filmed, that there's video out there, that you have a former security person saying he filmed all sorts of things for Diddy, including these freak-offs, and now that can come back to haunt a lot of people. So I think there's a lot of worried people out there, and sure, if you're a high-profile person and you don't want to be associated with this, I guess one thing you could do would be to try to, cut it off at the pass and try to reach some sort of resolution, some sort of settlement before a case ever gets filed. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons to that approach, because you might be dealing with one attorney on one case, but what about victim number two with a different attorney who decides to sue you? I mean, you're going to you're going to go around settling all these cases with different attorneys before they ever come to fruition. So again, it's going to be very interesting who gets drawn into this Diddy net of salacious, horrible freak-offs and the allegations against him. And you know, Hollywood's worried. The music industry's worried. Executives are worried, no doubt about it.
Going off what you were saying before, there have been some reports that one of these celebrities or multiple, again, we don't know who or how many, but at least one has apparently settled before any of these suits could be filed so that their name would not be listed in these lawsuits. I mean, you kind of pointed it out there, but wouldn't that be a daunting task if there are 120 lawsuits and they may be involved in all of them? What would that even look like?
A very daunting task. And so, and look, assuming that's true, that someone has come forward and settled the case, we're never going to know, right? They've settled it. It's confidential. We're never going to know who that person is, what amount they paid, what their role was. It just, you know, it's just out there, right? And so, but I think if you are a celebrity and you're at one of these freak-offs or you somehow were involved in this, it's a very daunting task to go out there and try to kind of plug the dike on all the potential cases out there. And so I think it's also interesting strategy by this lawyer, and what he's doing is smart. He's floating this out there, and he's got his 800 phone number up there, and he's generating interest for lawyers to call him for that exact reason, to say, hey, I want to try to resolve this case with you before you ever file it. And so it's a smart strategy, and it sounds like maybe it's working with these other Hollywood figures that might get drawn into the fray.
So if, let's say, one of these celebrities has reached out and settled with the plaintiff before the suit could be filed, obviously we, the public, wouldn't know their names. But is it possible that investigators would reach out to the person who was potentially going to be this plaintiff and say, hey, what are your allegations? Do you have video, in an effort to potentially prosecute this celebrity?
It's a possibility. I mean, I think the federal government has directed all of their efforts, obviously, at Diddy at this point in time. I will say this too, is that generally speaking, the law in most of the states is if you observe a crime, you don't necessarily have any legal duty to report the crime. Now, there's exceptions to that. But just generally speaking, the law is if you observe a crime and you don't report it, there's nothing you did wrong. I mean, morally, sure, you should have reported it. Legally, you don't have to report a crime if you don't want to. So let's just assume one of these celebrities are there and they witness something, potentially illegal. They don't have any obligation to report it. They can't be prosecuted for that. Now, look, one huge exception to that in every state is if someone witnesses a child being abused, you have an obligation to report that, particularly if you're a mandated reporter of child abuse, meaning you're someone who deals with children all the time. Then you can be prosecuted for not reporting. That applies to teachers and coaches and people who deal with children all the time. So to circle back to your question, I think it'd be a very, very difficult criminal case against some other person who was at a freak off who just happened to be there and observed something illegal.
But you did touch on something really important, these allegations of child sex abuse. And that's what we're hearing from this attorney, Tony Busby, that multiple people were assaulted before they were age 18, someone as young as 9, others were 14 or 15. And in the federal indictment, it's interesting, none of this is mentioned, nothing to do with the age of the person. There's actually only one victim listed, but nothing to do with child sexual assault. So do you think it's possible then that prosecutors could add those charges against Diddy if it's corroborated with these civil suits?
Absolutely. I mean, here's while the criminal case and these civil cases are really going to start dovetailing into each other because they're going to feed off each other. And so you have the criminal case that was filed, and now the prosecutors in the criminal case have the advantage of seeing all these allegations that are coming forth in these civil lawsuits, and particularly the ones involving minors. And so you can bet that they're going to reach out to the attorney in Texas or to the actual victims themselves, if they knew who they are, and see if those claims are legitimate. And if they are, you can bet that those criminal allegations will be added to the criminal case against Diddy. And boy, that's going to be devastating if the authorities add allegations and criminal charges involving abuse of minors, sexual abuse of minors. I mean, that's so you're going to see these cases kind of, they're not going to merge, but the information certainly is going to be shared back and forth, and you're going to see the criminal case probably blossom into a bigger case than what it started out to be.
One of the main things about these freak-offs is that a lot of them were recorded. So people have video or photo evidence allegedly of all this. And this is what prosecutors are saying too. But also I'm wondering about witness testimony. These accusers, do you think it's possible? You said authorities may be speaking with them about the investigation, but do you think that prosecutors would talk to them and maybe even put them on the stand weeks down the line?
Well, look, the criminal case is going to rest upon people or victims who are at these freak-offs, because you know what the prosecutors, they're going to have to prove is that people or the victims were unwilling participants in what took place there. And for example, if they can find a witness who says, yeah, the alcohol at these freak-offs was spiked with drugs, and obviously no one knew that, and it was done to render people either, you know, slightly unconscious or just to make them so that they were compliant, that's a huge witness. And they're going to want to find those witnesses to say that that took place and that Diddy knew it was taking place. That was part of the game plan. If there is witnesses who are going to say that he used, you know, illicit drugs to gain compliance of victims, or that he would physically abuse them to gain compliance at these freak-offs, incredibly important witnesses, because that's how the prosecution is going to prove their case, through witnesses like that who are going to disprove. Look, Diddy's going to come in, if he has to put up a defense, his defense has to be, this was all consensual. Everyone knew what they were getting into. Everyone knew what these parties were about. Everyone knew it was kind of, unfortunately, this giant orgy, and they knew what they were getting into, and it was all willing and voluntary stuff. So these witnesses who could, no, it wasn't voluntary. They're having their drinks spiked. They were being physically challenged and physically abused to do this. And so that's where these witnesses are going to be so important.
Talking about the witnesses too, it kind of gets my brain thinking about these potential celebrities or A-listers who are going to be listed in these lawsuits. I know you said it may be difficult to prosecute them, or prosecutors aren't even going to focus their energy on them and more keep it on Diddy. But I'm wondering if they would maybe use the testimony of these celebrities to their advantage. So you have the people who were allegedly assaulted by Diddy, but what about these other people who may have been in the room, may have been participating, but they flip, so to speak, to testify against Diddy?
Again, a definite possibility. You know, the more credible witnesses the government can gather for this case, the better the chance they have of gaining a successful conviction against Diddy. And so, sure, if they're able to obtain the testimony of a celebrity who was there, who says, hey, I saw this happening, and in hindsight, it was illegal, or it didn't seem to be consensual, that's huge testimony. That's going to crush Diddy's case. And the problem is going to be, are you going to be able to get a celebrity to come forward and say that? Are they going to willingly say that they saw something that they now perceive to be illegal, and then, you know, publicly come forward and make themselves known and be part of that? That's going to be a tough one for the prosecution, for the government.
Do you think there's anything else big I didn't ask you about this case, the specifics, anything?
No, I think the other thing I would add is, you know, you have all these lawsuits coming down the road. What's going to happen, though, is the criminal case definitely takes priority. Okay. And so you could see all these lawsuits being filed. And what happens then is the courts put a hold on them all. They put a stay on them all, because in the civil lawsuits, Diddy can't be forced to testify. He has a Fifth Amendment right. And so you could see all of these lawsuits filed, and come to an abrupt halt. And then they'll have to wait out the criminal case. And then when the criminal case is finally over, okay, now the civil cases can proceed. So you could be looking at kind of a Harvey Weinstein situation. I mean, it's been 7 years since Harvey Weinstein, all these allegations first started. We're still dealing with Harvey Weinstein, right? I mean, another criminal case in New York, and through all of that, one conviction, bunch of civil lawsuits, many of them still pending. And so I think we have a long way to go with this Diddy scenario.
Following news of these 120 civil lawsuits, Diddy's team released a new statement saying, quote, "As Mr. Combs' legal team has emphasized, he cannot address every meritless allegation in what has become a reckless media circus. That said, Mr. Combs emphatically and categorically denies false and defamatory any claim that he sexually abused anyone, including minors."
Melcher's here to Diddy's lawyers have filed a new appeal, but Christopher Melcher's here to tell us the truth. He might actually get this one. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. I know many of you have made your opinions on Diddy. I have as well, but everybody has the right to process to a fair trial. Christopher Melcher's here to break it down. Welcome back, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good. Glad to be here.
This is interesting. You sent me this and you told me that he might have a shot at this. And I wanted to break down what this means for folks who are sort of confused. What do you mean he's going to get out on appeal? Everyone sort of thought he lost that appeal and he was going to be there till trial, but he's now making some new claims. Can you explain to the audience?
Sure. Just so a little bit of background, because I know we have viewers from all different places with different systems. Here in federal court in the United States, there is no absolute right to bail, meaning that the government can hold a criminal defendant in detention, in custody, awaiting their trial. But we also have to balance that against the fact that there's a presumption of innocence in the United States. So, the prosecutor has to establish these charges beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury, and he maintains a presumption of innocence until that happens, which could be way far between then. So how do we hold him in jail? Well, normally these people would be released. They would post a bond, where basically an insurance company would step up and say, hey, if Diddy doesn't show up in court, he flees, we'll pay all this money. Diddy offered a $50 million bond. So that's a lot of money to secure his promise to appear. Of course, he has a lot more money than that. So would that dissuade him? That's what the government said. But also we got to keep in mind that his homes were raided 6 months ago. And so he clearly knew that he was in the crosshairs of the government for at least 6 months. He didn't flee. And as a matter of fact, he arranged through his lawyer to surrender in court in New York. He was there in a hotel room the night before he was arrested, waiting to show up in court to be booked. And we all saw that the government swooped in, grabbed him out of his hotel room and arrested him the night before he was going to voluntarily surrender. So to me, that looked like a guy who was going to appear in court. And since they went against the plan, apparently, for him to surrender and swooped in and took him, it appeared to me right at the moment that they must have believed that he was trying to intimidate or dissuade witnesses from testifying. And that'd be a really good reason to hold him in custody. And that's exactly what the government said. Now, he went to a hearing. The judge heard some argument and said, no, we're going to hold you in custody. And that was remarkable because a lot of these rich guys get out. Now, the thing is, there was a hearing, but how much time did Diddy have to really prepare for that? Not much. The government holds all the cards. So now he's filed an appeal, and this goes to a higher court. Under federal law, that appellate court has to do an independent review of it. So they're not going to defer to what the trial court said. They're going to say, give me your evidence, give me the arguments, both sides, and we, appellate court, will make a decision. And I think he has a decent shot at it. And we can get into some of the reasons for it in a minute.
Well, it's interesting because many people have said, that this was all part of the plan so they could get more people to come forward, because we've seen many people come forward, RICO charges, et cetera, that he's kind of like a mafia boss and he still has control and power. And so people are just afraid. And yes, during that hearing, they made it sound like he was intimidating witnesses. But now we're discovering through this document, which we don't actually have, but we're reading through sources. But Chris, you said there was a point here where he may not have even been able to, he may not have even met some of these witnesses that or knew of these witnesses that they allege he was reaching out and harassing.
Well, so here's the nuance on this. It's very difficult as a criminal defendant. Okay. And again, I'm not, defending Diddy. But I think if some of you are listening to this and getting upset to thinking, oh, wow, Diddy could get out. The lens or the test that I always use is, what if it were me in jail? What if it were a loved one of mine in jail? What standard would I want applied to me or that loved one? If we use that, we're usually going to be guided a lot more than saying, hey, we hate this guy and think he did it and who cares what happens to him. So what is difficult in these cases when you're claiming witness intimidation or trying to bribe a witness is that Diddy knows everyone who's involved as an alleged victim or co-participant by the nature of the allegations, right? So he didn't do anything to complete strangers, allegedly. He did things to people he knew. That's the allegation. So the fact that he would have contact with those people would maybe be natural because he knows these people, number one. Number two, a lot of them are suing him. So he has a right to at least have his lawyers contact them, or he might want to contact them and try to work something out or whatever. So here he is being sued by a bunch of people who claim that things happened to them. He knows some of those people or other people. He's out there maybe having contact with those folks, maybe because of the civil case, maybe to dissuade them from testifying, who knows? But what the government apparently is going on is saying, hey, Diddy, you knew that these people were going to be witnesses against you in the criminal case, and you thereafter contacted them, which, is kind of a thought that, hey, that should have been hands off. And so we think you're suspicious here of trying to dissuade them. Well, Diddy's coming back in his filing yesterday. And it looks like what he's saying is he didn't even know for sure until 2 days ago, October 7th, that who these witnesses necessarily were going to be, because the government on October 7th released their affidavits in support of the search warrants to Diddy's counsel, meaning that there's declarations by law enforcement saying, here is the people we talked to base these search warrants on. And he's apparently saying he didn't know the full detail of that until 2 days ago. Therefore, the contacts that he had with these people in September, a month ago, could not have been with knowledge that they were going to necessarily provide this testimony against him in a criminal case. That's what it appears he's arguing. He's also saying that the government withheld that information when it made its bail pitch, or no bail pitch, I should say, when they picked him up. So he's saying, look, that the government fairly should have told the court when they were alleging that he was intimidating witnesses, that he had not even been informed of some of this information that the government was alleging. Who exactly were the witnesses? What exactly were they going to say? He didn't even have that information, apparently, when they claimed that he was contacting them for the purpose of dissuading those people from being witnesses in the criminal case. So a lot of action is going to happen. The guys, so I say, I'm not good at predicting the outcomes of this, but I would say he has a fair shake at getting out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to hide my bias. I feel like he's guilty based on a lot of stuff we've seen. But I also have to admit, everybody has the right to a fair trial, right? And we have to look at everybody innocent until proven guilty. Now, granted, we saw him on the tape with Cassie. This dude's guilty of bad stuff. And it does seem like there's too many people coming forward that this is just, they're all shakedowns. So it does seem like, something's there. But it's frustrating if the government didn't really provide the evidence. Like, you do have to provide, like, here's who's coming after you, and here's the allegations so he can then defend himself, just like you'd want that, right? You don't want the government to just suddenly surprise you with a bunch of stuff and say, "Whoops, sorry." So this is interesting to hear. And I hate to defend Diddy because I'm not, but I defend everybody's right to a fair trial. And if we don't have a fair trial, Chris, right, that puts the whole thing in jeopardy because he could get off. I mean, it's like the Alec Baldwin thing where I do believe Alec Baldwin bared some responsibility, but the prosecutor was so overzealous and didn't really put dot all the I's and cross the T's that he was able to get out based on their bad work. And that's the last thing we want here, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like I say, there's unfortunately, kind of a two-tier justice system in the United States. It's not anywhere written that way, but we all know somebody that's rich and powerful gets treated a lot different in a criminal case than somebody who doesn't have money or power. This is the exception where we got a rich and powerful person sitting there in jail, waiting trial for potentially a year or more. So this is the exception. Some people might say, hey, that's the way a lot of other people are treated. That's the way he should be treated also. And I can definitely understand that. But I would just point out, very difficult to organize your defense from a jail cell. So his life is on the line on this thing, or his freedom at least is on the line for this, for maybe the rest of his life in prison, and try to coordinate a defense. He has no access to his phone, no access to his records, no access to assistants or other people who can help him gather the information to potentially disprove some of these allegations. Instead, he has to wait till his lawyer shows up and talk to them, without any, the ability that regular folks, out of custody would have. So again, it's a balancing test. And the fact that he is alleged to have done certain things is not a basis to hold him in custody. The primary reason is he going to show up in court? Is he going to obstruct justice or commit other crimes? That is the reason to hold him in custody, not because he's alleged to have done horrible things in the past.
Yeah, and I remember when we were covering this, 50 million is a drop in the bucket for Diddy to avoid jail for the rest of his life. I mean, is there even a place he could fly off to and get away with it? Like, wouldn't he be extradited from any other country that he would even consider running to?
Yeah, that's another really good point. And I think you'd make a great lawyer. And it's like, where does Diddy hide? Okay, so Diddy does not hide anywhere. He's unmistakable, recognizable anywhere in the world he goes, especially if he's on the run. The arm of the law will grab him. He would be free for whatever, if he fled, for probably a period of days or weeks at the most until he's brought back, and he'll never see the light of day after that. So yeah, the 50 million is not a lot. I think though, like I say, he looked like he was going to cooperate. Now, the fact that he's been sitting there for 2+ weeks in a federal, MDC jail cell, who knows? Maybe he wasn't going to run before, and now if he gets a taste of freedom, he's going to be gone. There's always a risk of that. But again, where does Diddy hide?
Good questions, and a question to ask yourself. I know you all have considered him guilty and want him behind bars, but is that the right legal thing to do? That's the question. We will find out through this appellate court, this new one, and see what happens. But as we've been saying a lot,
hold on to your butts.
Unclear where it's going to go. This case keeps surprising all of us, and we will keep you updated.
Now we all
I froze up like that. I had to shut it down now to get it back on, but we back. Ooh, kind of strong. I don't know why I do that. No, it ain't this video.
Dana Tran, Sarah Chapman, Cassie Ventura, Young Miami. And even though he claimed to love these women, he still lived by the narcissist rules, which is extreme love bombing in the beginning. He would give these women everything that they ever wanted until he didn't. However, what about the men? We never hear about the men that were very special to Diddy. Men like Clive Davis, Bentley Farnsworth, YK Osiris, Meek Mill. And not only did the public not know about these special relationships, there wasn't even any confirmation that Diddy was gay. That is until a couple days ago when Freddie P actually came out and said it. Until then, it was only allegations.
I think he gay. I think everybody around him gay. And I think you don't get to stay up around him unless you've proven that either you are with the or the don't bother you.
He would go on to say that Diddy loved being with men that were on the down low or that he could turn from straight to gay.
Turning people out. That was his addiction. That was his addiction. He didn't. There's plenty of people that he could have. It was his addiction.
And the word on the street is he even tried to turn 50 Cent and the rapper Fabulous.
Why won't you party with me for your birthday, man?
We partied for my birthday before. You came to my party.
No, but you ain't never really party, you know what I'm saying?
I get uncomfortable. Like he said something to me one time, a long time ago. At Chris Knighty's wedding, he told me to take me shopping. I looked at him like, what'd you just say? Let me move, man, before I do something. You're gonna make me mess up the wedding.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
Let me get out of dude, you take me. That's still what a guy says to a girl.
Now we know he didn't turn out 50 Cent or Fabulous. But according to the rumors, there were plenty of men during the freak-offs and hired ex-workers. And we know during the freak-offs, there were plenty of men that drank something that was put in their drinks. Now, a real quick side note, I had no idea how easy it was to put something in an alcohol bottle or wine bottle. All you have to do is reseal it with a blow dryer, a very hot blow dryer, or dip it in hot water. So be real careful at parties and clubs. I mean, wow, it's just getting crazy out there, isn't it? Now let's talk about the men that weren't one-night stands or a hit it and quit it situation. Let's talk about the men that it's being alleged that he had actual relationships with. First on the list would be Clive Davis. Now, according to the rumors, this relationship started when Diddy was only 23 years old.
Diddy is truly a monster and represents everything that's wrong with the music industry. What most people don't know is that Diddy actually had a mentor that molded him into the monster he is today. Most of you should have heard about the powerful music executive Clive Davis and his contribution to hip-hop. Clive Davis was behind artists like TLC, Whitney Houston, and Brandy. Back in the 90s, Clive Davis actually signed Diddy to a label deal for Bad Boys after Diddy convinced him that hip-hop was going to be the next big mainstream music. The story goes, Diddy was fired from Uptown Records and was looking for a new home for his record company, Bad Boys. This is when Diddy ended up meeting Clive Davis, who decided to fund Diddy's Bad Boy vision, taking Diddy under his wing and mentoring him. After becoming Clive's prodigy, Diddy became the mega hip-hop executive and mogul he is today, reaching heights he wouldn't be able to without a man like Clive Davis behind him. Now, the industry for many years has been talking about this meeting between Diddy and Clive Davis, claiming that Diddy did way more than just show music to Clive.
Now, many outlets are reporting that Diddy had to get on his knees and do special favors for Clive in order to get the funding to start Bad Boy Records.
According to many in the industry, it was believed that in the 1994 meeting, Diddy actually got on his knees for Clive Davis and did some extracurricular activities for him. It is also alleged that Diddy would then end up secretly dating Clive during this time for 5 years. For years, this has remained an unconfirmed industry rumor that no one really had any proof of for the longest. Well, that all changed back in 2013 when Clive Davis himself wrote in his memoir that he was indeed a bi man who was into men and women, openly confessing that he had secretly dated many men within the industry. This, for most, confirmed the rumors that Diddy had to pay a dark price for his success.
Now, according to the rumors, Clive Davis fell deeply in love with Diddy, a very sick, twisted love, because both of them began to use their power over men. Then they would use these special favors they were getting from men against them, blackmailing men to do whatever they needed them to do. And according to Radar Online, that reported this yesterday, and the Jasmine brand, this is why Clive Davis is freaking out over the whole investigation. He doesn't want his dirt coming to light. They're saying that Clive is so worried, he's not even sleeping at night.
Mr. Davis, you're a major influence on the career of P. Diddy. Have you spoken to him since the federal raid?
Yeah.
Have you spoken to Sean Combs? Any comment, Mr. Davis?
Nah, he can't have from this time.
Any comments about Diddy? He credits you as one of his mentors.
He's gonna die soon. That's what's crazy. He's dying for prison. Oh, dirty bastard.
Now, let's move on to Bentley Farnsworth, the oh so good looking Bentley Farnsworth, this man is a nice looking young man. His real name is Derek Watkins. Now, according to the rumors, this relationship was just the opposite of what Diddy and Clive had. According to the rumors, people love Bentley's personality. They say he was easy to get along. It appeared that Diddy was always having a good time around him. Now, according to the rumors, Bentley was on the down low, and it was he that approached Diddy.
So how did you actually end up going to work for him?
I was working at Ralph, right? And so I was living in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy. A big shout, Ralph, between McDonough and Howe. All right, a Southern guy with a suit, you land in the hood.
Yeah, not a lot of gents in Bed-Stuy.
You're the feds. They thought I was the feds.
Well, even better.
Right. So I'm there, and when I was working, you fold down the store, at 7 o'clock. Either I could go on the train, go back, try to change into something a little more, casual, denim or something. But I miss a lot of that good networking stuff, a lot of that, like right after work stuff. So I would always go out dressed. Mm-hmm. So I really started being, and the only person dressed in any of the little hip hop, any of the events were the Wall Street guys. This is gray suit, navy suit, white shirt, very boring.
Right.
So when I'm in the chocolate brown 3-piece lavender shirt, foulard tie, with the chocolate brown suedes busting heads, I stood out. And I started to realize, I was like, okay, so New York is kind of weird. You got to act like you the ish before you even done anything.
It's all about, people's perceptions of you.
It's really weird. And so this was different. This was a different thing coming from Atlanta and just being, just a regular humble guy. So I was like, okay, I get it. And then I started to realize, I know a lot of these guys, but they don't know who I am and they don't know what I do. And I started to realize, so I would literally walk up to Puff and, and I'd be like, you want to do this? Look, you can't do this, and walk off.
So what this sounds like, people, is he started heavily flirting with Diddy whenever he seen him at the nightclubs.
Yeah, so, and he would always be like, after I say it, I walk off. He was like, who was that? What was that? Who was that? Like, what? And so it became like almost like an inside joke. Every time I see him, it got to the point where I wouldn't have to say nothing. Say, you're at the party, you looking around, then you see this dude again. That's like, I'm like,
how you doing? What's up?
No, I'm just pointing like,
yeah,
that ain't it. And he walks in, and this particular day, I have to admit, like I was dressed like the Black Duke of Windsor. Like I was Murk, M-U-R-K, Murk, Murking, right? Like full out, the watch vibe, And so he walked in, he walked straight to my table. I stood up, and it was like a little stare down match on some
wow.
And I won. He's like, yo, it was, get this dude my 2-way number.
Now, I'm going to need all the men and women to take notes. That had to be the most suave way to meet a famous, rich music mogul. Anyway, according to the rumors, Diddy hires Bentley to be his stylist after the whole J-Lo Shine situation. And then quickly after that, he becomes Diddy's assistant. And according to Freddie P, it was obvious that these two were dating.
I think Fonzo was his little girlfriend at one time, because you have to see how they was conducting themselves. I don't want to say that about Bentley, because Bentley got kids and shit, and I got respect for that nigga. Like, he was one of the few niggas I fuck with, but the way they used to carry themselves.
According to Freddie P and several others, it was an open secret that these two were an item. And just like Diddy's other relationships, their relationship was very, very good until it wasn't. Being with Diddy, Bentley became an instant celebrity with his own fan base just that quickly. It was like, who's that man carrying an umbrella for Diddy? To whenever you seen Diddy, you saw Bentley. Bentley was even on Diddy's reality TV show, Making the Band. They would always go on lavish trips together. According to the rumors, not only did these two enjoy being together, but people loved them being together. Then out of the blue, he stopped paying Bentley and talking down to him very, very badly in public.
Now that we know the monster, man, you carry the man umbrella. You was the man. I watched this man disrespect you every chance he got.
Then all of a sudden, Bentley stopped coming around.
I heard they fell out because of he was stealing or something like that, whatever. But Nick, you hang around a nigga who don't want to pay you, giving millions of dollars away every night, you know, acting like he can't pay you on time, want to fill your butt, all this weird ass shit. You gonna steal from him too, nigga. You might not even be a thief.
Now, whatever really happened between Diddy and Bentley, no one really knows, because the rumors is that Diddy paid him off and then threatened that if he would ever talk about him again, he would be sorry. And just like that, Bentley never spoke of P. Diddy again. Bentley now lives a private life with his wife and children. Now let's talk about YKO Cyrus, a very young YKO Cyrus. According to the rumors, these two, when they got together, he was in his 20s and Diddy was in his late 40s, early 50s. According to the rumors, out of the blue, all of a sudden, YKO start posting pictures of Diddy on his social media. Like no one was even thinking about a relationship between these two until he started posting to social media. According to the rumors, they had went on vacation with just the two of them, and YKO Cyrus started posting about it. According to the rumors, this picture right here was screaming, "I'm hooking up with Diddy, people." So everybody started talking about it. I mean, it was all over social media. Then when YKO Cyrus realizes that everybody's talking about it on social media, he tried to take the pictures down. Now, we all know YKO Cyrus is not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he has to know once you post on social media, it never goes away, ever. However, when his baby mother went on social media and posted this posting, she said, "Stop asking me what happened with me and my baby daddy. I caught him with a man, okay?" And then after that, there was no more vacations with Diddy and Cyrus. Word on the street is Cyrus was so excited about this new relationship that he didn't know how to keep his mouth shut. And Diddy just couldn't have that. So that relationship didn't last very long. However, Diddy was head over heels with him until he wasn't. Now let's talk about Meek Mill. So everybody knows that Meek Mill has been in and out of jail since 2008. He really does have an array of charges, with the most serious involving pharmaceutical selling. And a lot of people say that when you're in prison, sometimes men become what they call gay for the stay. And that's when you're a heterosexual man, but when you're in prison, you mess around with men because that's the only thing you have access to. So according to the rumors, Meek Mill was definitely gay for the stay. And there were rumors that Meek had a relationship with a billionaire named Robert Kraft.
Well, I got to meet Meek through my friend Michael Rubin, and he flew down on my plane like almost 4 years ago to Florida, and he asked me a lot of good questions. He was looking for business advice, and I loved it. That it was insightful questions, really good, and so we developed a relationship.
Now, if these rumors are true that Meek Mill had a relationship with Robert, well, he's no dummy. Robert Kraft is worth $11.8 billion. According to Forbes magazine, he made a lot of his money by owning a soccer team called New England Revolution. Now, don't get me wrong, people. I mean, if Meek is going to be gay for the state and do it for free in prison, I think he upped his game, okay? Let's take this thing outside of prison and let's do it with somebody that's got some money. But that's just how I look at it, okay? But his rap fans, they do not look at it that way, people. If his fans ever found out that he was gay for the state with some wrinkled up old white man worth billions of dollars, he would be done. Okay, people, it's just not allowed in the rap game. And don't get mad at me. That's just how it is. That's why all these down low rappers, they have to stay down low or they would lose their fan base. So when Lil Rod mentioned in his lawsuit that Diddy was having an affair with a rapper, not only a rapper that used to date Nicki Minaj. I forgot to mention this part. A rapper from Philadelphia that used to date Nicki Minaj. Well, right away, everybody knew who that was. Now, when I tell you the minute that Meek's name was mentioned in that lawsuit, and remember, they don't say Meek Mill, they said a Philadelphia rapper that used to date Nicki Minaj. When that was outed in the public, it went viral instantly. And Meek Mill responded instantly, trying to protect his name. In all reality, nobody was trying to hear it, Meek.
Meek Mill responds to coming up in P. Diddy's lawsuit. So Meek Mill has been responding to coming up in the lawsuit, even though it didn't say his name. It said that it was a rapper from Philly who dated Nicki Minaj. That's not hard to put 2 and 2 together. Meek Mill claims like, man, ain't nobody never tried me because I'm from Philly. So because I'm from Philly, y'all ain't seen what y'all saw. Y'all ain't see me and Diddy with the matching fits. Y'all ain't see it. Y'all ain't hear what y'all heard in that lawsuit. Nah, y'all ain't heard it because I'm from Philly. Y'all got me bent. So Meek is out here on his tough guy shit. He done went off on DJ Academics for speaking on it. He's going off on people for speaking on it. Don't be mad at me, brother. I just bring the news. I don't wake up creating news. I wake up going to find the news, brother. And I found you in the news for being in that damn lawsuit, and then I seen your pic with Diddy. I'm just saying.
Then 50 Cent jumps in it, saying that he's glad that Meek Mill stood up for his boyfriend, P. Diddy. Then he posted this video. According to 50, this is a video of Meek Mill serenading or expressing how much he loves P. Diddy.
I was fucking this bad bitch, she fucking me good, and that bitch almost drove me crazy. I'm pulling up to her crib, I was in that 19 Mercedes. I got this bad bitch from LA, she be fucking me so crazy. I'm saying her and I take my thoughts and we get this money, we waving. Oh my God. She gave me that pussy, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I'm rich niggas from the ghetto to that metal. I'm with Diddy on another level. Yeah, bitch, man, get your shovel. I'm a guy. Give me it.
Then there was some guy who came out. I don't even know who this is because I try not to listen to this tape. This guy came out and said that he was at one of Diddy's freak-offs and he seen Meek Mill and Diddy go into the room and that he recorded everything. Now, me personally, I only listened to about 10 seconds of this tape. It was very loud. It was a lot of, oh, there you go. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Ooh, all stuff like that. I'm not trying to hear it.
Son, like all the champagne was spiked. Everybody was passed the fuck out. I don't drink. So I was playing that off like I don't drink. I smoke. Like I smoke and I had my own, but like everybody was passed out. Yo, Diddy had that man in the room. Look, yes, I put my ear to the door and I brought the phone because Diddy started going in overdrive. I ain't know what the was going on, but I just heard balls slapping against cheeks. I heard struggling to take. I heard is being like, yeah, daddy. Like when he started all that daddy this and daddy that, and then I heard some hollering and struggling. Like, yeah, I kept the phone there and I recorded all this because I was like, this Diddy bitch.
And then there was the tape that resurfaced of Diddy calling Meek Mill daddy and them telling each other that they love each other.
Hey, what's up, King Son? Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, daddy. You putting in that work. Proud of you. I love you. Yeah.
Now, according to the rumors, Meek Mill dated Nicki Minaj from 2015 to 2017. And it's being alleged that Meek Mill began a relationship with P. Diddy in 2016. And they dated on and off all the way up until Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, which was November 2023. And it's being alleged that both Diddy and Meek Mill really loved each other. However, Diddy shows a strong record of not really loving anyone but himself. So I always wonder, do you guys think that Meek Mill did to P. Diddy what P. Diddy did to Clive Davis, which is just use him? Also, it's being alleged that this was Nicki Minaj's response to finding out about Diddy and Meek Mill.
Do you think it's a lot of undercover brothers in the industry?
Oh no, Queen. We don't know nothing about undercovers. Oh no. We don't know about that.
Okay. Because I do.
Let me know your comments.
The FBI discovered a tunnel this morning that the rapper had made in his home, connected to the basement of a former Michael Jackson home.
There is an underground mansion.
The officers found strange items on the floor, such as children's clothing.
Actually terrifying to know that this exists.
It's uncovered tunnels underneath his house.
Diddy's?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes.
So many celebrities are refusing to talk about Diddy or the secret tunnels under his mansion that are supposedly connected to Michael Jackson's mansion and the Playboy Mansion. So let's get into it. Lately, there's been a lot of discussion around Diddy and the secret tunnels that are under his home. If you told me there were some secret tunnels in the Hollywood Hills connecting celebrities' homes, I wouldn't be surprised. This article reads, since the arrest of Diddy on charges of trafficking and racketeering, there have been a ton of details coming out about his past. And remember, earlier this year in March, his home was raided. And I'm sure it took them a long time to do this because he's got a massive property. And when it comes to those Hollywood homes, you never know what is a bookshelf, what's a secret door. And recent viral posts on TikTok and other platforms have fueled conspiracy theories suggesting that Diddy has a secret underground tunnel linking his home to Michael Jackson's LA property. These rumors surfaced following Diddy's recent legal troubles in which he faces 120 violent allegations. Some videos have even claimed that the discovery of the tunnel prompted authorities to reopen the investigation into Michael Jackson's passing. While these unfounded allegations continue to circulate on social media, authorities have urged the public not to engage with unverified information. Of course, they don't want us talking. They don't want us talking about information unless they are putting it out because they want to go and filter what we know and what we don't know. Popular Twitter account The Pop Things claimed that they found a tunnel in Diddy's home. The interior has a private theater with a capacity for 35 people, a fully equipped gym, and a wine room. The most curious thing about the property is an underwater tunnel connected to a grotto inside the luxurious mansion. A lot of people suggested that this tunnel possibly went to the Playboy Mansion because the Playboy Mansion, surprise, surprise, is located very close to Diddy's home. Other social media posts claimed that the FBI found tunnels underneath Diddy's home that once connected to a basement at Michael Jackson's mansion. A TikTok claimed that his team was nervous and blocked the entrance to his house and begged them not to enter the tunnel.
The FBI discovered a tunnel this morning that the rapper had made in his home, which connected to the basement of a former Michael Jackson home. The FBI was called to the scene after an anonymous tip from neighbors reporting something strange happening since Diddy's arrest. When the agents arrived, they were greeted by his team, who seemed very nervous. They tried to block the officer's entrance, but the agents insisted and decided to search him when they entered his room. They noticed that the floor near the bed looked like it had been recently disturbed. One of the officers then moved the bed to the side. That's when they made an unbelievable discovery: an entrance covered only by a rug. Intrigued, the officers decided to go down into the passage. However, the team tried desperately to stop them, begging them not to enter the tunnel. But the officers continued anyway. The walls of the tunnel looked newly built, as if abandoned in a hurry. As they went deeper, the officers found strange items on the floor, such as children's clothing. The atmosphere grew heavier with each step, and the officers began to feel a terrible sense of foreboding coming from the end of the tunnel. When they finally reached the tunnels, what they saw shocked everyone, and they immediately called for backup.
Not the children's clothing. I mean, at this point, I can see why they're saying it's a conspiracy, because these are really scary claims. But with what we know about Diddy, am I surprised? Not really. So imagine this. You're out grabbing a coffee, maybe running a quick errand, and then out of nowhere, bam, you're in a car accident, and now you've got medical bills adding up like a bad to-do list. And no surprise, the insurance company is giving you the federal government has yet to release any photos of it. The mainstream media insists there is no connection between the tunnel and the nearby Playboy Mansion. They're just located minutes away, which, interesting how like the media and everyone is trying to say, no, there's no connection. Well, have you guys even figured out if there's a connection yet? I feel like authorities are so stuck in time.
But I heard before that there was several celebrities in Hollywood that tunnels from their house led to the Playboy Mansion.
In the past where like they say, oh, don't look into this, don't investigate this, these claims aren't real, but then we see social media sleuths put together these stories and solve investigations. I'm not saying the authorities aren't smart people, they can figure it out, but sometimes the help from the public can lead to us actually figuring out the truth. But do the authorities want the truth? It really matters who's at the top and who they're trying to protect. Another conspiracy theory that circulated at the time of the raids was that Diddy escaped through an underground tunnel. I do believe he has an escape route planned when it comes to his Miami property, because he can easily access the Bahamas through a boat. When it comes to his LA property, he might have a backup plan, which kind of explains these tunnels.
In case you're wondering where Diddy hosted these parties, specifically the parties that took place underground, I was absolutely shocked to find out that there is an underground mansion with tennis courts, indoor pools, marble everything, a literal ballroom. And this checks out because Ali Carter was talking about this underground ballroom. Like, actually, imagine being 5 floors beneath the surface. Willing to bet there's no cell service. What are you going to do? Scream, run? Where are you going to go? Actually terrifying to know that this exists. Like, just want to play tennis in my underground mansion. I have no words. It's crazy.
I can't imagine this being real because it seems so dystopian. Also, I'm not a big fan of tall buildings and heights. Like, I feel like when I look out the window, I get kind of like motion sickness. And I have a feeling like when I go down into the earth, I'll feel maybe claustrophobic. I can't imagine being like at a tennis court way below the surface where you aren't getting any air. Per news reports in March 2024, Diddy's properties in LA and in Miami were raided by Homeland Security. Diddy's LA mansion was located in the upscale neighborhood of Holby Hills, the same neighborhood as the Playboy Mansion. However, there is no known underground tunnel connecting the two. According to this report, people reported that the Playboy Mansion was rumored to have a series of underground tunnels that connected the mansion to other homes in the area. However, one staff member told the site that the tunnels were closed up in sometime in 1989. And I don't know why celebrities are so scared to acknowledge these tunnels. I feel like, oh yeah, there's underground tunnels, cool. Actually, quick little side note, I went to a college called not me thinking about this. I went to James Madison University, located in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, and it was a women's school, I believe, in 1908 when it started. I don't know why I'm including that. It's not really relevant either way. But back then, like the women who went to that school, when it would snow out, they actually had these tunnels built underneath the buildings from the dorms to the other buildings. So you would go in these tunnels to avoid the snow, which sounded great because I remember those days in college when I would go to the dining hall and I had to go through like, 3 feet of snow because it snows there. Either way, I've been in these tunnels before, and creating tunnels is a very real thing. And I think especially back then, it wasn't difficult. It wasn't advanced technology. So even back in the, early 1900s or whatever, 18th century, I always get those confused because it's like 20th century is like it's supposed to be the 19th century. Comment below if you get confused by that too, or am I just like too dyslexic? Either way, underground tunnels are a thing. They're a part of history. Why is everyone being weird about the Playboy Mansion? Just like, it was a time back then. They've closed it up. Just acknowledge them.
You and Jack Nicholson had your own secret passageway into the Playboy Mansion.
The site also reported that Diddy listed his LA home for sale shortly before the arrest. A source said that Diddy had lived in his Miami property for years now and was planning to sell his LA home once his daughters grew up and moved out. The house was listed for $61 million. It has 10 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms, and a 2-story guest house. So way too much room. I can't imagine having that property. I would want all my friends to live there, my entire family. Now, there was an underground swimming tunnel referenced in a 2014 report. It's when Diddy purchased the home, and they said in the description that the European-style home includes a lagoon-style swimming pool with a grotto connected by an underwater swimming tunnel. So there's some kind of tunnel there. You guys will see in a new video soon, we are talking about Wendy Williams and Kanye West calling out Diddy, and there's a lot of celebrities who are staying silent, but there are also other people like Janice Dickinson, who is just out here saying whatever she wants to say, which I can appreciate.
No one wants to talk about P. Diddy. Why?
Because he's an actor.
But like, how come everybody's so silent?
Well, he's a big drip. I think he's a real big drip. They just uncovered tunnels underneath his house.
Diddy's?
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. I've never been, I don't know him. I don't like him. And I really don't like what he did to those women and men.
What could the tunnels be used for?
What do you think?
Taking people in and out from the Playboy Mansion to what? I don't know. I don't know. Like a dungeon or something? Are there tunnels under there? Like, people are saying there's tunnels. Tunnels for what? Well, tunnels from the Playboy Mansion to Diddy's. Jason, hey, my man, do you have any reaction to the Diddy scandal? Any reaction? No reaction. No reaction? Oh, man, you gotta have some reaction.
Now, if you guys were to go on Google right now, you'd be like, hey, Sloan, this is fake news. Every report says there are no tunnels. Again, I'm not saying that this is in fact true. I'm just presenting everything we have found. And I, again, wouldn't be surprised if there were these tunnels. So I'm going to talk about them. According to indictment documents, during the March 2024 raids on Diddy's Miami and LA properties, investigators found narcotics, firearms, ammunition, and supplies for the so-called freak-off parties, referring to the elaborate and produced SCX performances that Diddy arranged, and that he allegedly often forced victims to participate in. With the assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, they transported and used SCX workers to, work at these parties across state lines, forcing them to take drugs and doing things that they are not consenting to. Diddy distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and complacent. Diddy secretly recorded videos of these people participating in these activities with commercial SCX workers. After these freak-off events, Diddy and these victims usually received IV fluids to recover from the physical strain and drug use. I recently saw a video of Jay-Z and Diddy meeting up, I believe on a Saturday. I'm going to try to find that clip and include it here, but you can see that Diddy is approaching a hotel room and Jay-Z is there with some young women in the background. Either way, I wouldn't be surprised if there are tunnels, if there are connections, if there's so much more to this story.
See how we do it here on the Saturday. Just with us. Good?
I'm just waiting to see whose name is next on the list. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Who do you think is going to go down with Diddy? And when it comes to these tunnels, what are your thoughts? Have you ever, like my college story, have you ever been at a building or a facility or at a home that has tunnels like these? Let's go ahead and open this P.O. Box package item. It looks like it is from
with Jaguar Wright. She was on Piers Morgan, the Piers Morgan show, and she was discussing everything as it relates to Diddy and all the updates. And then she brought it up to speed with Jay-Z and Beyonce. Since then, Jay-Z and Beyonce sent that cease and desist. But it's raising some eyebrows. Really raising some eyebrows. Let's see what Piers Morgan had to say in his apology.
Well, Jaguar Wright unexpectedly made several serious allegations about Jay-Z and Beyonce during that interview. As I said in the moment, they were not present to respond or defend themselves, but now they have. Their lawyers contacted us to say that those claims were totally false and have no basis in fact, and we've therefore complied with the legal request to cut them from the original interview. Editing interviews is not something we do lightly at a show called Uncensored. But, like the proverbial cries of fire in a crowded theatre, there are legal limits on us too. And we apologise to Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Now, many people are saying this is a little suspicious from Jay-Z because, you know, he hasn't been responding to anything and hasn't responded or hasn't come out and made any statements since the whole Diddy situation has happened. And his name has been popping up quite a bit. Jaguar Wright has mentioned him plenty of times, but yeah, it wasn't until he was able to get on Piers Morgan that would happen. Because, you know, you got all these different platforms, YouTube and all these other things where you can't really sue, but then you get on a platform like Piers Morgan. Yeah, but it's raising some eyebrows. Let me read the comments real quick. Y'all got to see the comments on this. So it says, y'all know it's a whole lot of spam comments too lately on X. I hate that. That's so annoying. You got to get through all the ads. Somebody says it will all come back to haunt them. There always is a beginning and an end. This is how God designed the world. Whatever goes around comes around. God will finish this soon. No matter how hard these people try to hide and cover up and run from the truth of light will only catch up to them faster and faster until they cannot hide anymore, cover up anymore, and run from the truth anymore. It's inevitable. It's only a matter of time. Excuse me. They say if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, you know what I mean? Look like a duck. I'll just say that a lot of people are in panic mode when they feel like they're about to get caught. Now, I'm not saying that I know for a fact Jay-Z and Beyonce have any involvement in anything. I have no hardcore proof to make that claim and nothing like that. I'm just generalizing it based on everything that we see going on in Hollywood, okay? But yeah, bold statements. You know, I wonder why they ain't try to sue Jaguar Wright in previous accounts. You know, no cease. Y'all do the cease and desist, or y'all, you know, send that up there to Piers Morgan, but y'all ain't doing nothing to Jaguar Wright. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's the only observation I'm just saying. Anyhow, now we won't be able to play all of this. Shout out to TPV Sean. That's his name on X as well. Make sure y'all go check him out ASAP. He has an 18-minute video. We're probably only gonna play maybe about 10 minutes, maybe. And I gotta give him his props on his research. This is about Oprah. It says Oprah purchased sickening Diddy tape of underage Justin Bieber being, yeah.
Terrified, traumatized, destroyed. Those were some of the words Justin Bieber used to describe his experience of growing up in the entertainment industry, surrounded by sharks, predators, and open Luciferians. Friends of Justin Bieber warn that he's deeply distressed, as the most traumatic experience of his life is now being exploited for profit, without his consent and at his expense. It's a total nightmare, said the insider. He feels like he was victimized years ago and now is being victimized yet again. If this footage gets out, it will follow him for life. It will be on the internet forever. To make matters worse for Bieber, he's been trying for years to speak out about the abuse he endured at the hands of powerful industry, but the mainstream media has consistently shut him down. Diddy was Bieber in front of the world, even warning Bieber on Jimmy Kimmel's show not to talk about the things he did with Big Brother Puff. The warning signs were flashing red, and nobody stepped in to save Justin.
Got me a Lamborghini.
Oh, well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last time.
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Fast forward a few years, and instead of being heard, his voice was silenced by the media industry, leaving him to cope with the trauma of his past. He now carries the heavy burden of knowing that despite his efforts, he is powerless to stop these predators from targeting the next generation of child stars.
It was hard for
And that's crazy because he was right there in his face, right? But the way that Diddy phrased it made it seem like, you know, like just innocent, like, oh yeah, you know, you don't talk about that type of stuff, you know what I mean? Whoa, 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 you know, almost like it was some Hollywood mystery curtain or something like that back then. That's what it really seemed like before the rise of social media. But it's just sad to know he literally went through all of this and is having to relive through it.
For me, being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn and everyone, you know, telling me they love me and, you know, just turn their back on you in a second. People take for granted encounters, and I don't wish that upon anybody.
After the disturbing new allegations about Diddy emerged in the aftermath of Cassie's lawsuit, reports indicate that Justin's mom, Patty, is allegedly starting to question Diddy's relationship with Justin. Sources close to Patty suggest that she is unsure how to approach this sensitive subject with Justin. Reportedly, Patty feels a considerable amount of guilt for letting him go with Usher and Diddy in the early stages of his career.
You should. Where are the parents? The parents need to be coming out talking about their involvement in this.
Bieber has been warning us for years that Pizzagate is real, and powerful figures in the music industry are raping child stars and murdering babies and children. Unfortunately, the mainstream media took away Bieber's voice, silencing him to protect the perpetrators. And so very few people get to hear his warnings. Back in 2016, Bieber came forward naming Diddy as a powerful industry. But instead of investigating these serious claims, the mainstream media went into full damage control, protecting Diddy and painting Bieber as a troubled, mentally unstable young man. In a heartfelt confession to his church congregation in Beverly Hills, Bieber revealed the disturbing truth that the music industry is controlled by evil pedophiles, and child stars are forced into degrading and dehumanizing sexual encounters with elite figures, including powerful politicians. Bieber has been trying to warn us ever since about the real nature of the entertainment industry. Fast forward to 2020, and Bieber released his Yummy music video, where he's dining with a group of elites. Bieber posted photos of babies and pizza on his Instagram back then to promote his single Yummy. Make no mistake, this is Pizzagate, and Justin is blowing the whistle. Now, compound all of this with the disturbing truth coming out against Diddy, and the fact that he was pals with Epstein's alleged victim turned child Rachel Handler. Don't forget, Kanye West told us years ago that Diddy was a Fed.
And the Kardashians kidnapped my daughter in public.
Yeah, I remember when Kanye West was saying this and everybody, you know, saying he was crazy. And even at the time, I didn't know where it stemmed from. I just knew that he was saying something that, you know, he couldn't really elaborate on. But when he said that Diddy was a Fed, it definitely hit different.
And I didn't have the address to my child. None of these niggas that want to say something
Travis
now.
gave you the address, though?
Travis gave me the address.
Right.
But as far as Meek Mills, Puff Daddy, whoever, none of these niggas, all you fake hard niggas, fuck you. Hold on. Okay. All you fake hard niggas, fuck you. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'll get fuck who, because you can't shoot nobody anyway. And the reason why you got to talk is because you did a deal, you fucking Fed. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got to come at me, because part of the deal for you to be a do all that, and get out of jail is that you promise that you're going to go pull my co-car. So y'all niggas shut the fuck up about me.
Aaron Carter was another victim of Diddy and industry executives, and he reached out to Kanye following his rant about Diddy being a Fed. This tweet dropped right as Kanye was calling Diddy out, and Aaron Carter ended up dead 2 days later. The elite are hiding their depravity in plain sight.
I may be a little kid, but I have been around. Can hear the girls all scream soon as our wheels touch down. Junkets in Tokyo, fashion shoots in Milan, then a private jet to Madison Square Garden. 36-week-long tours, 10 singles on the charts. So hear my message, girl, cause it comes from the heart. Help me, my parents sold me to a big producer in the record industry. He makes me do things that I don't want to do. Please call child services or maybe SVU.
There is no such thing as coincidences when it comes to protecting the elite ring. Shortly before his death, Aaron Carter revealed the feds attempted to get him to set up Michael Jackson while covering up the crimes of their partner in crime, Sean Diddy Combs.
I get back to the Sheraton Hotel at Universal over here. There's 4 FBI agents waiting for me in the hotel room. And my mom's there and she's like, tell them what happened. And I'm like, what do you mean tell them what happened? And I sit down with them and they all ask these super sexually exploited, you know, questions, backsided questions. And I knew that at my age already. And I looked at all four of them and I said, are y'all crazy? I said, what you think I'm gonna do? Tell you that Michael did something bad so that we can sue him for money? That's what I told him. I was like, you're crazy. And I looked over at my mom and I was like, are you serious, Mom? I was like, what is going on here? Why are you letting this happen? And she goes, well, I think something happened. You know, I think something. I'm like, really? That man did nothing but be hospitable, kind, loving, giving, everything you can think of.
It sure isn't looking good for the elite like Diddy running the entertainment industry. According to an industry...
That's a shame, man. These child stars having to endure this level of exploitation from their parents. Honestly, where's Justin Bieber's parents? Where is Aaron Carter's parents? Why aren't they being held accountable in the public eye? They're just as much of... they're just as guilty as a Diddy or as any of these Hollywood elite pedophiles. You know what I mean? This is beyond me. Y'all still haven't got to the Oprah, how this all relates to Oprah. So like we're going to be watching this for a little while. We less than 2.5 minutes away from the 10 minute mark. But I'm going to let him get to the point and then, we'll evolve from this.
Whistleblower, Oprah is actually the world's most prolific pimp. And the walls are closing in on her too. Oprah is a Luciferian who's been hiding in plain sight while making a fortune, servicing the public needs of Hollywood and the entertainment industry elite. She's far from the only one. Luciferianism is the religion a young up-and-coming star must adopt if they wish to succeed in Hollywood or the music industry.
For the sake of YouTube, please listen. All of this is claims right now, okay? For the sake of YouTube. I personally can't prove none of this information. We're just having a conversation, deciphering all the information that we have. Okay, YouTube? That's it.
As Cat William warns, 2024 is the year when the darkness is finally being exposed and the industry elite are being served up with justice. A whistleblower from Oprah's inner circle has come forward, revealing the truth about her crimes and issuing a warning. The authorities are closing in on her as we speak.
As someone who has worked closely with Oprah for years, I can no longer hold my peace. The truth is far darker than anyone realizes. Behind her carefully constructed image, she's been running an evil empire. For years, she's been pimping out young, ambitious young stars to the most repulsive industry executives, preying on their desire for success by offering them up to these in charge. These vulnerable young people, many of them just starting out, are promised fame and fortune, but in reality, they are lost and naive young kids. Recently, she took things to an even more disturbing level. She purchased the infamous tape featuring Diddy and some of his victims, including a young Justin Bieber, who I can confirm was not a willing participant.
You know, shout out to TPV Sean. Now, you know, when you provide claims like this, I would love to have seen more, you know, evidence or sources and things of that nature. But this is one big allegation so far to me. I don't have no proof or anything about her being arrested or any of these claims. So that's all I got right now. I'm trying to read some comments.
Hell of a thing. They're saying Leonardo DiCaprio has fled to Italy to avoid the P. Diddy debacle. Put it up full mass. I want to remind people of a clip that's now resurfacing from Diddy. Here it is.
And the white party's coming back this year, by the way, for charity.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And I'm sure that's probably not public information yet, but who's the person that's number one on that invitation list?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
And I can get on that list,
Yes,
right?
without a doubt, you are invited.
That is so generous of you. Cheers to that.
See you at the white party.
All right, I'll put the picture back up. Now, this is going to be an interesting background. So Leonardo DiCaprio's connection to the music industry continues to follow him. His history in particular with Sean Diddy Combs. Despite being on vacation, fans still remind him of his ties to the entertainer and business exec, whose parties are now under federal scrutiny. Like many other celebrities, DiCaprio attended numerous Diddy parties over the past 30 years. In the 90s, as his star was rising, the winner often mingled with top names in hip hop. His friendship with Bad Boy founder seemed natural, as both were at the peak of their careers. Fans believe Leonardo DiCaprio is hiding out in Italy to escape rumors about his connection to Sean Diddy Combs and his parties leading up to and after Combs' arrest on charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting sex workers for prostitution. Outlets like the Daily Mail confirmed DiCaprio's attendance at Diddy's famous fight parties in 1998 with more photos. Some of these gatherings held at Combs' East Hampton home are rumored to have later become freak-offs, those infamous baby oil situations. Now, let me say this. There's a lot of allegation. Obviously, nothing has been substantiated. Substantiation will come with evidence presented or guilty pleas given. According to the federal government, their indictment goes all the way back to the early 90s. So one question was, does the indictment even use the time frame, the scope, as an investigative proxy to DiCaprio's attendance at the parties? The answer is yes. Yes, DiCaprio is part of these parties during the scope of the federal government's investigation. Although there are no allegations currently against DiCaprio. Some social media users are still taking the opportunity to troll for his association with Combs. There's a series of paparazzi snap pictures of the actor in Italy with his girlfriend, calling it a family affair. The Instagram profile said the 49-year-old was joined by his mother, stepdad, and the mom of his lady. Many of these fans flooded the comments, disregarding the wholesome vacation pics, and shifted the conversation to the Diddy-Caprio bromance. Quote, "We're just going to pretend like he wasn't at the Diddy parties. Cool, cool, cool," someone wrote. "I bet he'll marry this one after all the Diddy stuff that's coming at him," one person commented. Adding the instruction to the profile to pin this, another quip, PR spin to distract that he was Diddy's #1 party invite, end quote. Someone else mentioned his preference for younger women, writing, quote, "He loves babies and loves Diddy parties." A fifth comment read, "He is staying far away from being asked about Diddy's parties." It appears that the Django star has been working overtime to distance himself from Combs over the last month, despite there being no evidence presented that he did anything wrong, but had a legal good time. Reports are saying he is doing everything he can do to play down his connection to Mr. Take That. One, because Atlanta Black Star wrote that. All right, I didn't, okay. One insider said in a September 2024 interview with the Daily Mail, after the charges almost broke the internet, Leonardo DiCaprio has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. And that, quote, he attended a few of his parties back in the early 2000s, but literally everyone did. It is going to be hard for the severance to feel real as videos continue to circulate where Combs claims that is #1 on his invitation list is DiCaprio. Still, tipsters insist that it's been years since the box office draw has rocked with the money-earning Mount Vernon native. He has nothing to do with any of that world. So for anyone to assume that he will get roped into this based on a few grainy photos that are more than 20 years old, is ridiculous. They said, for now, the actor is playing it cool, relaxing with his young lady and hoping to come out of this controversy like he did with the one MDB scandal just a few years ago. DiCaprio became entangled with this scandal, which also implicated others, such as Kamorley Simmons, estranged husband, and more. More recently, producer Swiss Beats through his connections to a financier who allegedly embezzled billions from an a state investment fund. Lowe helped finance DiCaprio's film, The Wolf of Wall Street, using funds from the scandal, according to the report. The actor even accepted expansive gifts and donations for his foundation from Lowe. Once the scandal came to light, DiCaprio did cooperate with authorities, returned to assets linked to the scheme, including Picasso paintings and Marlon Brando's Oscar, which had been gifted to him by Lowe, which is unclear. The government has approached DiCaprio about cooperating with the authorities in the Combs case. So here's the thing. He ain't new to this, right? So he understands how to deal with the authorities, obviously. But this is an interesting entanglement, perhaps. Sometimes, obviously, people who are in entertainment, they would say things during an interview or a promotion that aren't necessarily true, right? So by Diddy saying that DiCaprio is number one on the invitation list, maybe he's not actually number one, maybe he's number two, okay, or number three. But he's on the list. We know he's invited because he went there, but it doesn't mean that he's the right-hand man of Diddy, as some are suggesting. So we should see how the facts bear out. Sharon, just a lot going on here. What say you?
I mean, the key is not necessarily where he lands on the list, but does he also have baby oil in cases stored at his mansion? And that'll tell you everything you need to know, Doc. You know, if Leonardo DiCaprio knows anything about these horrific allegations, he should come forward and even be compelled to testify if he knows anything. But let me say this about men who constantly date exceptionally younger women, 20 years, they're junior. It's fine. Sometimes people fall in love. Age is just a number, but they should be examined because often as we age and grow all the time, really, we mature, women have a voice, and they don't want to deal with that mouth. At least that's what I was told. But at the end of the day, if Leonardo knows anything about this, and if he has that baby oil, Doc, he's got to come forward or be compelled to do so.
Yeah. And if he has a string of baby oil purchases, it's over with.
Costco said, don't look at them. They don't carry that. Walmart does. A lot of other stores do.
Now that Hollywood is finally being exposed, it's important we bring to light all who are guilty. Most celebrities are desperately waiting for this to be over, hoping they aren't the next one to be called out. The truth is, there's a lot more Diddys in the industry than people know about. Men who have shown similar sinister behavior over the years that just got swept under the rug. There's one man who seems to be just as bad as Diddy, but the world would never expect it. The NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal isn't as quite as innocent as he seems, as what he has been accused of in the past paints a scary picture of who he really is. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome back to The Truth Is, where I drop new videos every other day exposing the truth. In today's episode, we will be talking about why Shaq might just be as bad as Diddy. Let's get right into it. You may be asking, what is Truth talking about comparing Shaq to Diddy? There is no way that Shaquille O'Neal is in any way comparable to Diddy. As far-fetched as that might sound, by the end of this video, you will see exactly why I say that. At this point, we can't trust anyone in Hollywood. And if you haven't learned that yet, sooner than later, you will get that wake-up call. In today's day and age, you don't know what to expect from any of these men in the industry. While Shaq might appear as this big, fluffy, friendly NBA legend, that's far from who he really is. After what I learned about Shaq recently, I realized that he's definitely been moving in silence all these years. In public, Shaq is this massive, lovable star who goes around giving back to the people. He's also an honorary police officer, if you can believe that. All of this helps paint this wholesome good guy image, but behind the scenes, it appears that Shaq is far from the good guy he pretends to be. Over the years, he has been accused of some horrific crimes that were just swept under the rug. While Shaq pretends to be Superman, he's actually closer to the villain Lex Luthor, and I will tell you exactly why. While most people think Shaquille O'Neal retired back in 2011 because he wasn't getting enough playtime, there might be a whole nother reason entirely why he quit the NBA. It appears that it was most likely due to Shaq being investigated for kidnapping and being associated with gang members that were essentially his hitmen. Back in 2011, right after Shaq retired, he was dragged into a police investigation connected to an incident that took place in 2008. The police were investigating Shaq because they believed he was the shot caller in a kidnapping attempt that was orchestrated by gang members. These gang members who were connected to Shaq kidnapped one of his old friends, Robert Ross. The reason these gang members kidnapped Robert was because he allegedly had an S-tape of Shaq cheating on his wife. Back in the 2000s, Shaq partied with Ross at his house. While there, he hooked up with a woman that was there, which was all caught on tape by Robert's surveillance camera. Robert at the time was working with Shaq in the music industry and decided to hang on to the tape and not tell Shaq anything about it. This was until he felt Shaq robbed him of money when he brought him the artist Ray J, and Shaq managed to get him signed. Shaq made some money from that deal and was supposed to split it with Robert, but didn't. This made Robert upset, and he began to use the tapes as leverage. According to the authorities, this is when Robert showed the tape of Shaq hooking up with this woman to Shaq's wife, offering to give her a copy. This is what I believe led to his wife eventually divorcing Shaq, as she split with him and filed for divorce back in 2009 after she saw the tape in 2008. Apparently, Shaq found out about this and didn't like this at all. This is when Shaq allegedly called his gang member friend, Liddell Rose, telling him he needed to get that tape back for him at any means necessary, with Liddell gathering weapons and 6 of his gang members to go hunting for Robert. Eventually, they found him driving a Rolls Royce in front of a convenience store in the Sunset Strip. When they found him, they pointed their weapons at Robert and forced themselves into his car. The gang members then forced Robert to drive his car to Liddell's house, where they attacked him and robbed him of his Rolex and chain. Liddell demanded the tape, and Robert pleaded for his life, telling them that he would get them the tape if they let him go. When they let Robert go, he went to the police and snitched on the men. The 7 men were eventually arrested and charged with robbery, kidnapping, and other crimes connected to this incident. This led to Shaq himself being under investigation for some time, but interestingly enough, he and the 7 gang members were all cleared. The prosecutor said there was credibility issues with the victim, but the prosecutor never released what those issues were. And to me, it obviously appeared as a cover-up. Something that was clear because even Shaq's ex-wife confirmed she saw the tape in court. His wife clearly left him because of that tape. Even with the clear-cut evidence, the investigation was dropped and the case was closed. The story doesn't end here though, as Robert Ross came out and sued Shaq, exposing his dark alleged crimes. Robert was suing him for allegedly masterminding a plot to have him kidnapped by other gang members back in 2008. On top of this, he was also suing Shaq for hiring him to take out people on his behalf. According to the lawsuit, Shaq allegedly ordered Robert to take out at least 3 different people. A gang member who disrespected Shaq in front of his wife, and that man actually went missing and was never found. He also ordered him to take out a record producer whom Shaq had issues with, and also a woman who Shaq had cheated on his wife with and got her pregnant, then paid her to get rid of it. According to Robert, Shaq also asked him to break an NBA player's shooting arm. Here we have a man who was a confirmed friend of Shaq, accusing him of being the mastermind of several murders. What's crazy is that Shaq also wanted someone else gone. Who, you may be asking? His own teammate, Kobe Bryant. Back in the 2000s, when they were on the same team, Kobe and Shaq were beefing for a few reasons. Mainly, it was because Shaq felt that Kobe snitched him out as a cheater. Kobe had said during a conference that if he had just paid the woman off like Shaq, he wouldn't have been in that situation, referring to his R-word case that happened in the 2000s. According to Shaq, this led to him and his wife's first split because she hired a private investigator that confirmed Shaq was cheating. This led to the beef getting so bad that Shaq even threatened to take out Kobe Bryant. A Laker representative, John Black, said this about the beef in regards to how bad it was. Mostly it was Shaq and Kobe that didn't like each other, but it didn't affect them on the court. They would say something about the other on and off the record, but it didn't become confrontational more than 2 or 3 times over the 8 years. When Kobe gave the statement to Jim Gray, where he went off calling Shaq fat and lazy, that was one of the times. There was one really bad one early on. Brian Shaw had to pull them apart. Shaq threatened to murder Kobe. Here we have someone in the NBA confirming that Shaq was the type of person to threaten to take people out. According to his own former friend Robert Ross, Shaq tried to have many people taken out, like some sort of mob boss. He tried to have a woman taken out because he hooked up with her and got her pregnant. That's right up Diddy's alley if you ask me. It's no surprise that Shaq hung out with Diddy a few times. They were up to the same activities in the industry. Recently, Shaq allegedly threatened someone else. This time, it was DJ Academics. Academics claims that Shaq apparently hit him up in the DMs furious after Academics posted about him flying out a girl more than half his age. Academics claims that Shaq told him it would be nothing for him to get him touched.
Now, going back to I told you I posted Shaq back in the day, and Shaq got my DMs talking crazy to me. Like, I still couldn't believe, Shaq was like, I could get you touched. I was like, what? Yeah, at first I was like, is it talking about some Diddy? Like, what you mean you get me touched? Then it kind of dawned on Shaq talking gangster. Like, yo, Shaq, I'm gonna get up with you. You know, I'm gonna see you, right? And everything I'm reading is in Shaq voice. You know, I'm gonna see you, right? The big diesel. And I'm like, what the fuck? Since when did my childhood hero start talking so crazy? And I wanted to apologize, but he was talking so tough. It just looked like a. So now I'm standing on mine. I'm like, I bet then. I'm like, OG. I call him OG in the chat. He's like, but he's talking so federal. But you know, Shaq's actually a police officer, in Palm Beach or something like that. He's talking so federal. Yo, he's saying me in the DMs it ain't nothing to get it you killed. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? Shaq talking to me like that? So Shaq started talking crazy to me. Get you touched. Yo, I ain't gonna lie. I remember I was at home when I was messaging him. By the time I got to my studio, Gilly called me. Gilly said, yo, Ack, what's up with you, man? What's up with you, Gilly? Like, yeah, we got it. I'm trying to talk about some Nasworth thing. He said, yo, Ack, what if you did to Shaq? I said, Shaq? He's like, I said, man, I'm just trying to let you know, Shaq, one of them guys, you must have did something because I'm getting a call and I'm like, look at Shaq calling. So now I'm like, wait, did Shaq really make some calls?
As you heard for yourself, Shaq threatened Academics through his DMs, telling him he has gotten other people knocked off. This was extremely interesting to me because of what Robert Ross had said about Shaq, ordering him to take people out. Now you may be asking, if Shaq really did all of these things, why isn't he locked up? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. It's because Shaq is a Freemason. Like I mentioned before, Shaq is open about his Masonic connections. There are photos of Shaq inside of a Prince Hall Masonic Lodge wearing his Masonic apron. There's also photos of him showing off his Masonic ring. Also, the video where Shaq openly confirms he's a Mason live on TV. While I have played this video in the past, I have to play it again for those who aren't going to take my word for it.
What's going on there? That's like my profession. You don't know nothing about that. Oh, can we get a close-up on that? Yeah, I don't know nothing about
What is profession?
Yeah, which profession are we talking about?
Just look at it. Is it a legal profession?
Of course it's legal. It's the name of my profession.
Read it. Okay.
It's too many.
That's too bright. That's too bright.
Well, anyway, Mason, are you a Mason?
Of course I am.
Okay.
Of course I am.
Okay.
As you saw for yourself, Shaq admits he is a part of the Freemasons, and most big judges and prosecutors are also a part of a Masonic organization. The Freemasons take an oath to protect each other. Shaq took that oath, and it's the reason he kept getting away with all these crimes. I am pretty sure Shaq ordered those hits, as not only did his wife confirm she saw the tape, but he also threatened Kobe and Academics. Just like Diddy, Shaq has been using his massive fame and power to have his way with people. Whenever he gets caught, they clean up the mess for him. While Shaq wants to appear as this innocent NBA legend, in reality, he's a Freemason occultist who most likely has gotten many people knocked off. Like I said at the beginning of this video, none of these people in Hollywood should be trusted. They are all up to the same activities. It's just been hidden. In my opinion, Shaq, just like Diddy, should be investigated, as we the people have to keep the same energy with everyone who is up to this evil in Hollywood. No one should get spared. maybe only then could Hollywood be changed for the better. These people have been operating on their own set of rules and are being protected while doing it. That needs to end, and we need the truth to be exposed about all of the monsters in the industry. Well, I'm gonna end this one here. I want to thank you all for watching.
Coffee. Follow me.